trend. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, let's go. 4.0, let them hoes in the go.
How's everybody doing? Good afternoon, good evening. Good afternoon, good evening to some, you know what I'm saying? It might even be good morning to some others, you know what I'm saying? Last Zulu was on the panel earlier. He out there and he woe is him. He gotta come home soon. He gotta come back and deal with what we've been dealing with, you know what I'm saying? How's everybody doing today, man? Oh, we sound good in the headphones. My name is Perfect. This is the Perfect Timing Podcast. We simulcasted live on 3 channels right now. Perfect Timing Podcast. You're watching me on that right now. This is this channel. My backup YouTube channel is Perfect Timing Podcast Live. You can also watch me live on Facebook under Patrick Potter. Don't ask me why. It's because I'm fly. You can also find me on Twitter under Perfect Timing Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at perfect_timing_podcast. I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to everybody for subscribing and watching. Thank you for all of my new subscribers on my channel. Thank you to all the views. We creeping up on 300,000 views. And I think we did this in a matter of months. You know what I'm saying? People been on YouTube for a long time, but we had like 300,000 views in a matter of months. So I'm really excited and blessed about what's happening with the channel. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe right now. Give your brother the HBU special. That's hook a brother up. You heard what I said. Give a brother the HBU special. Hook a brother up. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tapped into all of my social media networks so you can catch me and watch daily. You got to hit the subscribe button and you got to hit the notification bell. It's important you hit the notification bell because I've been looking at my analytics and what it is I upload daily, everybody. These live streams are going to be a new weekly format called Perfectly Said. We're not starting off with music today. Typically, I start off with music, but I've been doing a lot of analytical research, and a lot of people start off with music. And I think people prefer, if you like the content creator, you want him to get right to the content. You gotta be bop, 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 ready to go right out the gate. So we ready to go right out the gate. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. So we upload daily, you guys. We got lives, we got inspirational quotes and comments and reactions daily. So check me out. I'm appearing more in my shorts. They're a little bit longer. You're gonna see 15 seconds, 60 seconds, 45 seconds. You're gonna see me on a green screen. You're gonna be able to see me interacting with you via the short format. So check out that short format. It's very popular. I'm very excited about that. So make sure you tap into that. So we're doing that, and in this live stream format called Perfectly Said is going to be something I'm launching on Fridays. So we did a daily live stream before, so now we're launching this on Fridays called Perfectly Said, inspired by the youngster with the Well Said mixtape. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibe I started it off with, and we keeping that vibe. So the name of this vehicle and format is Perfectly Said. Today's show is inspired by my good brother at the Roger Report, Roger. So shout out to everybody out the Roger Report and the Habitual Line Stepper, yay, and the Black Manosphere. Salute to all them brothers over there, man. I do support those brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people like to poo-poo the Black Manosphere, but I don't think you've heard this section. That's why I coined the term 5.0. So salute to those brothers and what they doing over there. And this today's show is inspired by that. I'm hoping you guys is taking the time out. I put this in my community chat, so I've been promoting it all week. And I put some things for you in the description that we're going to discuss today. So recently we've been talking about this hero effect as we talk about Kanye West and we talk about the matters of the day. And you can apply it to whoever you want to apply it to. Hopefully you apply it to yourself. For all of my fathers out there, father power. But so today, as I did my research, actually, I pray. And I pray that you pray, right? And you'll see that a lot reflected, my spirituality reflected in a lot of my content and my creativity and my shorts. So there's this guy, and we've been dealing a lot about race. And I like that we're discussing race because a long time we jumped over race to talk about gender. So I really appreciate the genius of Kanye in making us discuss race again. So I really don't see race in the same way a lot of people do growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I grew up in a melting pot. I'm in an interracial relationship, and I come from an interracial family. So I grew up in a melting pot, and the Bay Area is very unique. You know, people like pick on people from the Bay Area because everybody sounds the same: black, white, Hispanic, Filipino. We all have the same vernacular that's spectacular coming out of this Bay water, man. So I'm listening to this guy, and he's a white Christian preacher. I share that with you because of the topic of today. And he's telling me about prayer, right? And I follow a lot of people, right, with my spiritual journey. And he said, why don't people pray before the thing? He said, people ask me for advice, and I know they don't really want advice. So I'm gonna give you guys some advice. Why don't you pray before the thing, right? Like, you're gonna go buy a car, you want a new car, you want a new house, or you want a new girlfriend, and you're gonna go on a date with this girl. And it's like after you've had unprotected sex with the girl, after you go to the car lot and buy the car, then you're in the car driving home. Oh God, please let this car be a good car. I hope it's not a limit. Oh God, please, I hope the contract I signed is good percentage rate. After you had unprotected sex, now you're going home. Oh God, please, I hope it's a good girl. Oh God, please, I hope it's a good guy. After the now, why is it that we pray after the act? So, and what he said was, we pray after the act because we don't want the intervention. We truly don't want the intervention. This is the human mind. We want the outcome that we want. We want the car. We want to have the casual sex, and we know if we pray or we go for counsel. For those of us who don't lean into spirituality and prayer, and all of my audience doesn't, I do. So for those of us, we don't want to go to counsel before we take this action because we may take a different action. See, if you pray about going out on a date and you say, well, God, will you bless this union and let this woman be a good woman? And if she's not a good woman for me, let it be shown. If you go and pray before you go to the car lot, God, I feel like I need a car. If you desire, if I'm supposed to have a car, bless me with the right car. If not, see, we don't do that. So pray before. Why don't we pray before? So I want to share that good game with you. But today is about the hero versus responsibility. And when I dug into hero's definition, you're gonna see that in my description. And responsibility, I got something I'm gonna share with you. I got a fair use banner that I got. I'm really excited about. Check this out. Bam, fair use. Bam, fair use. Salute to the fair use banner. I got that up there. Look, I'm a real professional YouTuber. You know what I'm saying? Fair use. This channel is protected by fair use, and the videos we're gonna show today are protected by fair use and the ability I'm gonna change and everything. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, man. Fair use. So I ran into a word that I wasn't familiar with that I believe when Black Uru was helping us the other day, and when we were having a conversation about heroism and being heroic, and you know, I had some difficulty with it, right? And this whole hero concept and the difference between the hero and the villain, right? Let me share my show before when we get deeper into the topic. We haven't even. Hey, let's do a roll call. Who's that? Tracy. What's up, Tracy? I ain't seen you in a minute. Nice to see you, sister. Thank you for hanging out and supporting. I truly appreciate that. I truly do. Make sure you share the show. I know you got a group of friends over there. Make sure you share the show in your social media circles. You know, if you participate in the Facebook group or Instagram, go ahead and share the show out right now. And I requested of everybody out there, make sure that if you got a wrench, you know, make sure you got a Reddit account, because when you hit the share button, you'll see Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. I need all of the people with a wrench to sign up for each one of these. So when the show is on, what you do is you go hit the share button and you share it on Twitter. That's what I'm doing right now. And you share it on Facebook And in Facebook, what you want to do is you want to be in a Facebook group, right? And then that's how it gets more traction. So join a Facebook group that's, of your own interest. You might like basket weaving, you might like making jam, you know, jam, jam. You might, you know what I'm saying? You might do Zumba, you know what I'm saying, Tracy? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you're a Zumba person, you might do Zumba. You might be in the Zumba Facebook group, you know what I'm saying? So if you're in the Zumba Facebook group, make sure you share it with your Zumba partners. This is the time to do that right now. That's what I'm doing right now. Now I'm on Reddit. Reddit gets a lot of traction for us. A lot of viewers on Reddit now. Not to jump around too much, but when you hear about Kanye West purchasing a social media outlet Parlay, it's very akin to a lot of people can't relate. So you can relate. I would relate it to Reddit, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit, but a lot of people are not fans of Reddit, right? And there's a lot of conservative or alt right leaning content on Reddit, and I actually run into it a lot. Sharing my material on Reddit, I get a lot of like off color comments of people who don't appreciate that I post my things in the Reddit chats, right? I've gotten kicked out of many groups simply because my channel grows and I have some compelling content. Shout out to my brother J Doe in the building. So I understand those of us who may not want to join Reddit because it's not for the faint of heart. But I get a lot of traction, so I have a Reddit account, and I would ask you if you support the channel to join Reddit. And while we're live, go ahead and share it in the circles that you participate in Reddit. I mean, it's some very informative groups. So the internet can be what you make it, right? So Reddit is like that. So when you talk about parlay, like it can be whatever you want it to be. It's a social media platform now. If overwhelmingly alt-right people join it and that's the voice there, then that's not because that's the only people that they allow. It's that's the people who majority went there, right? So there's an opportunity for us, like just like with the shirt, there's an opportunity for us there, right? Everybody assumes like, oh, okay, he bought this, he's gonna buy this, that means this. Well, actually, it's just like anything else. Anyone could go into the door. We can make it whatever we want to make it, right? So don't just assume things that they are like. So okay, we shared the show out a little bit. I'm gonna share it on my phone in some Facebook groups. But what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pull up my description. So I'm gonna go into these. Before we go into the videos, I'm gonna pull up my description and I'm gonna go into these definitions that I got into my description because I think it really helped when I did my research. And every time I'm live, you guys, I want y'all to make sure y'all check out my description because I'm leaving gems in there for you. So heroic. And then my title is the Joker, heroic versus responsibility, right? So you got the definitions up there right now. Let's start with the Joker. Before I go into it, let's start with the Joker. The new Joker, right? With Joaquin Phoenix, right? And I watched it again recently with my wife, and then we watched it again, right? We actually I took her to the movie theater to see it, and she didn't like it. And I liked it in the movie theater, and then we watched it again at home, and then she really got into it. And I was like, wow, how has things changed since when we saw this in the movie theater and what we're living in now? Like we're post BLM. We've talked about that this week, the BLMing of America. Now think about how Roger phrased that and think about the movie The Joker and how we go into this hero villain and responsibility and altruism. Like think about that, Joaquin Phoenix. And we're going to walk through The Joker very quickly so you can understand where I'm coming from today and what inspired my show, right? So when we watched the movie as a couple, my wife didn't like it, but it was before what took place in the end of the movie. Right? It was before the protests. It was before the collapse of what we are seeing, the aftermath of the collapse. And we're still going through what I call a transition. But we definitely went through a collapse during that time of quarantine and protest. Like the protest was born out of the quarantine. Like we haven't really done a real documentative movie or expose of what really took place and how these things were manifested and how the BLM of America even occurred, right? But if you look at the Joker, it's a great example of what happened, right? So what happened in the Joker? And I'm going to play some videos later that's going to talk more when we talk about these definitions that I put in the chat and the definitions in the description. Like I pinned the definition. Did you see? Make sure you vote in the poll. Make sure you vote in the poll. Did y'all see what I pinned? Let's read with perfect pen. What did I pin? Heroism represents the ideal of citizens transforming civil virtue into the highest form of civil action, accepting either physical peril or social sacrifice. Now that spoke directly to me about the Joker. But the Joker is seen as a villain. But the Joker was saved. Individuals start wearing Joker masks. Remember, the Joker was a clown. He was kicked and beaten. He was beaten by his mother. He had this false sense of who he was, who his father was. His mother lied to him. He was a loser. Think about the conversation we had today. He was a loser. In every walk, the whole movie built him up. People might say, oh, it's too slow. It was an excellent film, because it described where his pain is. Kanye West is saying, as Kanye West is saying in his most Joker-esque, as Kanye West is laughing, la la la, just like the Joker. Shout out to Kanye West. If he was there with, woo, I ain't gonna say it. Kanye said, you haven't asked me about my pain. Y'all remember when the Joker was sitting on the stage with Robert De Niro, the co-host? He said, you haven't asked me about my pain. You haven't asked me why I feel this way. Kanye West is expressing it Joker-esque. So he's our hero, but to some he's been seen, he's a villain, right? But the Joker was a hero. That was a hero origin story. That's why I love that Joker. That Joker was a hero origin story. The Joker was a hero. In the collapsing society, during inflation, gas prices, everything I've talked about when it comes to Kanye West, who you should truly be angry at. The Joker encapsulated that for the people. The people were tired. The people of Gotham were tired of these mega billionaires pointing their finger, telling them to pull up their bootstraps, judging them on what they can and can't do and how they should act. Wayne Manor, judging the people, a billionaire on high, judging the people. And the Joker represented the people who had been hurt, who couldn't get a break. See, the Joker thought it was just him that had an issue with his mother, who couldn't find a girlfriend, who couldn't find respect. This hero thing, this video I'm going to play later, I'm setting up this video. He could not find this hero. He could not find a reason, to be responsible. He couldn't find a reason for living. When we talk about what young men are going through, why the manosphere exists, why it's popular with young men. The Joker was this loser from a single parent home. Think about everything we talk about in this black manosphere. The issues that we all stem from. He was this loser from a single parent home. Couldn't get a break. Still lived with his mother. It should be eerie, the similarities. His mom never had a job, gainful employment, and he was picked on. He couldn't manifest his masculinity because of his upbringing and circumstances. Come on, y'all. The Joker. And what happens? In the movie, he goes through a rite of passage. And it's bloody and violent like birth. He has to be reborn again. He goes through, like Nameless talks about the portal, he goes through another portal. His mother was not an adequate portal for him. So he needed to be reborn, right? So he goes through another portal. It's a bloody birth. But in that violence, think about There Will Be Blood, the movie There Will Be Blood. Think about the conversations that we have. Think about the Civil War, the American Revolution, this portal, this birth. For us black men to be made new. Like after Kanye had said what he said, I don't even feel comfortable calling myself black. We're going through, I feel like we pregnant, it's the labor pains, and it's gonna be blood. It's going to be painful, but we being reborn into something new, just like the Joker. And some of us will see us as villain. Some of us will see us as hero. So the Joker goes through a violent exchange. Someone gives him a weapon. He uses the weapon. He's never defended himself. He successfully defends himself. For the first time in his life, he fights back, but he's forced to fight back. He's put in circumstances where he's put into a corner. He's lost and lost. He's at zero. Does it remind you, black men, of anything? He's at zero. But then he fights back and he wins. And he gets a taste of what it's like to no longer be on the bottom, to no longer be the boot heel. He get a taste of what it's like. And he says, and he's reborn. And it's almost like a movie like they don't want to promote it because they don't want young men to see what it will feel like to be a man. He was defined on Selfish Thursday. I used to have a vehicle called Selfish Thursday where I talked about desire, dreams versus desire, and whose life are you living? Whose dream are you living? Are you see, the Joker wasn't driven. He was just drifting. He was a drifter through life. He was living out his mother's dream of who he was. He didn't have his own identity. That's why I said he had to birth himself. This is what SYSBM is. This is what NIW is. It's the black man removing himself from the matrix. I was looking up matrix. Matrix means mother. The Joker had to remove himself from the mother. He had to be reborn. He sits on the couch. He sits on the couch. And he's a new person. He has on the new suit. He's full of life. It doesn't go the way he wants it to go, but he had a plan of what he would do. He wanted this grand finale of how he would end his life, but instead it took a different direction. And the direction it took inspired the masses. And he thought it was over, but it turned out it was a birth. And in the end of the movie is the greatest scene, because what we see, it's almost like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. This is the perfect analogy for me for black men in this hero concept. Because at the end of the movie, he's in the cop car. The car gets hit by a runaway garbage truck, But all of the people driving the garbage truck and the people in the street, the reason why the cop car can't get through is because the people have flooded the street in Joker masks. And they free the Joker from the back of the cop car. And the Joker stands atop of the cop car and does his iconic favorite 1-2 dance in New Life. He's dancing. Some people might say it's masochistic. He's dancing. Some people might think he's dancing because of the violence, or I think it's a new interpretation of the Joker as the hero. You always saw the Joker as the villain, but in this movie, the Joker is the hero of the people. Look, I'm going to read the definition again so you see where I'm coming from with the Joker as the hero of the people. Heroism says represents an idea of citizens transforming civic virtue. Isn't that the Joker? The Joker represented the people. All of the people were upset. It reminded me of the protests of the BLM era when everybody was upset. They didn't even know why they were upset. Civic virtue into the highest form of civic action. See, you interpret that to be beneficial to the state because the state interprets that to be good. What if it's anti the state but beneficial to the people? Is that not virtuous? Is that not civic? Accepting either physical peril or social sacrifice. The Joker went through both of that, and it elevated him to hero status. The violence that he went through, the violence that he committed, elevated the Joker to hero status. The violence that he committed, the violence that he went through, the sacrifice that he made, and what he represented to the people. What he said on the talk show. It made him, some people would say infamous, perfect. It's not heroism. I call it a heroism, like I said earlier about Barabbas, and the hero depends on the audience because of the definition of civic virtue and civic action and how the people related to the Joker. That's why I brought this, that's why I penned this definition. That's why you had to call the Joker heroic, not because of what your personal feelings of the Joker is, but how the people in that moment related to the Joker and what the people meant. How the Joker was their champion. Not only was the Joker a hero to the people in the film, not only was that a hero origin story, but the Joker was their champion. You are our Caesar. You have slayed the dragon. We hold you up. He was not only their hero, the Joker was their champion. And this is the thing I want to get at today. That's why I quotation the Joker. But before I put heroic versus responsibility, now let's go to the definitions. Thank you for everybody coming in. Make sure I hit the like, share, and subscribe, man. Make sure y'all tap in. I understand it. So let's go to the definitions, man. Heroic. Becoming a hero, blood daring, illustrious as heroic action, heroic enterprises. Put a pin in that. Second definition, brave, intrepid, magnanimous, enterprising. I chose this definition purposely because I feel like this is something that's been left out, and it speaks to Kanye West and a piece of my brother Roger trying to drive home about being a hero. And when I looked at the definition, I went to Black's Law 1828 dictionary to get the true etymon, the true origin, and heroism, heroic and being a hero has a lot to do with the man being enterprising. I didn't know that. Being a hero is a business. Shout out to Mrs. Perfect Tommy in the building. Being a hero is a business. I didn't know that. Why don't you hear more about the business aspect, the enterprising aspect of heroism? You hear about the savior a lot and being a folly and a simp and sacrificing yourself, right? And we're going to get to altruism coming up, but you very rarely hear about how heroism has to do with being enterprising. Makes sense, right? Superman was extremely enterprising. Batman was extremely enterprising. Makes sense, right? Think of a successful hero that you love who wasn't enterprising. Tony Stark's. Think about it. Bruce Wayne. Think about even Spider-Man in the book, how he ran labs and created things. He was a scientist. And Spider-Man made a lot of his gadgets. Remember that? Think about a successful hero that you love who wasn't enterprising, highly intelligent. We leave that out. We go to the simp aspect of the hero, the laying down in front of a train, the jumping in front of a bullet. I don't see that in the definition, right? And that's what we need to share with our young men. Being a hero is enterprising. Let's finish the definition. Becoming a hero is heroic, bold, daring, illustrious, as heroic action, heroic enterprises. Brave, intrepid, magnanimous, enterprising, again, illustrious, for valor. As Hector, the heroic son of, I wish Uru was here, he could talk about that. I don't know. We had to look that up, y'all. Because like I said, 1828, Hector, the heroic son of Priam, and a heroic race. A heroic race. Imagine, see, we've run from the death being a hero because of what has been defined in the Disney world that we live in. Because we're familiar with the Disney definition of hero. But imagine if we were a heroic race. Well, what do you mean, perfect? Daring, illustrious for valor, and enterprising. I didn't know that's what a hero is. I thought you meant some Captain Sable. No, a heroic race. Bold, daring, illustrious for valor, magnanimous, enterprising, heroic. That is a hero. Woo! We cooking. Let's keep going. Altruism. And I know I'm butchering that word. Y'all help me out in the chat. So because as we had the discussion about heroism, being a hero, and some people, even myself being the people pushing back on the whole hero concept, it was hard for me to digest when Roger presented it. Because a lot of us, we're not at the same level. And he was ahead of the game, and he is a lot of times on that. Salute to my brother, Roger. Because, I could see the Joker. So I had to do my own definition and go do my own reading about the etymology of the word. Because I could see the Joker, and what I learned is about the audience. The civic virtue and aspect of heroism and being a hero. I mean, this is what limits black men in being a hero is their audience. That's why we say they're not our women. We're not allowed to be fathers to our children. And now white men are going through the same thing. They're being removed from being a hero in the superhero movies and the comic books at working in their homes. It's not just happening on the television screen. It's not just happening in the magazine. It's happening at working in their homes. But black men haven't been removed from being a hero. Now, white men are feeling the pain because they're no longer allowed to be the hero in the story. They're no longer allowed to be the hero in the story. So now they're out here in the wilderness with black men, and they're like, well, what happened? How did I get here? I was a father. I was respected. There was a healthy respect of fear that you would not disrespect me, you would not divorce me, you would not cross me. That's gone now. White men are saying, what happened to that? What happened to that? I'm no longer the hero. I've been turned into the villain. They use Donald Trump to turn me into a villain. They use alt-right to turn me they use racism to turn me, they use Republican. They use my grandfathers, they use some of the mistakes I made. As a white man, can I make mistakes? So I can't be your father because you took away my ability to be a hero. Black Uru was talking about responsibility as I push back on the hero. And Black Uru said something. I'm going to play a version of what Black Uru said. Black Uru said, I'm afraid of a world where men don't have responsibility and don't have the desire to be heroes. And that's when we got into Brightburn. Because what is the reason for existence without responsibility? This is why Superman, this is what I said to Roger earlier, well, why would Superman come down out the sky? He's a superhero. Because he needed to be responsible to somebody. That's what life is all about. Being a father, being a wife, being a mother. The child depends on you. That's why I'm so afraid. Women are so afraid to get married and be a mom, because that child depends on you forever. As a father, the woman, everybody depends, but that makes you go out and work and build who you are, and you're not anything without those responsibilities. To your family, to your church, to your neighborhood. Let's read the definition. Altruism is the principle of moral practice or concern for the welfare and happiness of other human beings or animals, resulting in quality of life, materials, and spiritual. It is traditional virtue in many cultures and a core aspect of various religious and secular worldviews. Another definition I read said, a simpler definition said, that altruism is like when people inherently look out for their own. This is a more convoluted definition, but the cultural aspect, what it's getting at is altruism is what Black Uru was talking about, and why I had versus heroism versus responsibility is actually a trick question. Because a true hero is responsible and altruistic. It's this, and it's everything we were talking about all week. It's the saving the child. It's the looking out for the single mother. It's this inherent quality that we have to look out for other Black men and Black women and Black children. And the hero aspect of that, this innate nature that we have this responsibility, which is why the white woman said, look for a Black man, because innately they're altruistic. That's what she was getting at. That's what Black Uru was getting at. By virtue in many cultures, a core aspect of the Black man is what she understood. Their altruistic core aspects is what she understood. That you are a hero. That you would be a hero for my child. At your core, you would be a hero for my child, from your religious and spiritual upbringing, from innately who you are religiously and spiritually, your makeup and your DNA. Innately, you're a hero. You can't help but be responsible for your own kind and those in need. It's a trip, right? Why live this life? Let's go to responsibility first. What gives life meaning? Because that's what we were getting at. For my son, for your son, for all the sons and the men who watch. What gives life meaning? Why is this why is this thing important? Why are we talking about this? Because I don't do live streams unless God moves me. I'm doing these every Friday, and I'm doing them on Friday again because I believe I've been called to speak. And I told myself, I don't need to do the live streams. I'm getting my creative. I'm able to be creative with my other vehicle, I'm able to speak to the people. I'm able to be creative, and I'm being received. So it's a reciprocal relationship. I benefit from it. People benefit from it. And the live streams I don't feel are the same reciprocal nature. So it was difficult for me to come back to the live stream format, right? I even heard Angry Man talking about it the other day and then I heard Poor Man's podcast talk about it, about how all of our analytics have gone down. And what the Poor Man said is they don't want the message to get out. And what he said is, I'm doing the live streams. He created a live stream channel and he's doing reaction, and he said, because this message has to get out. And that's why I'm doing my live stream format again, because God has been weighing on me about getting this message out. The message has to get out. I had to do the live stream on Kanye West. I had to say what I said on Kanye West. It disturbs me, the low views. But I see the conversation change after my video. After my video, I hear people talking about how they actually originally feel about what was said, and instead of regurgitating television and media narrative talking points that was created by think tanks for a different purpose. So I take this seriously because it's my calling. So when we talk about this thing, it's a thing that Jordan Peterson, when he was on Pierce, the same person who got clowned by Kanye West, he cried. Tears came to his eyes because he knows he is a hero. He is a champion. A lot of people see Jordan Peterson as a villain, but he knows he's a hero. He's a champion to those lonely men, specifically ethnic boys who grew up in single-parent homes, who do not understand the responsibility and what it means to be a hero and altruism, and how their lives and how they're failing at life. He cried. Because people make fun of those men because you can't get a date, because you don't have sex, because you're a virgin, because you don't have they make fun of you. No one's helping those young men. No one's helping my son. No one's speaking to his pain. That's what Kanye West said. That's how we got the Joker, because no one spoke to the Joker's pain. The Joker's pain wasn't real. It was more funny to laugh at the Joker. That's why his name is the Joker. It was more fun to laugh at the Joker. Your mama didn't like you. They beat you up. You lost your job. You don't got a girlfriend. That's what we do to men. And that has a consequence. This is what Black Uru was talking about. Brightburn. That has a consequence. When we don't understand the pain, that's what Pierce Morgan did not understand. You cannot continue to quiet all of us. The pain will subside. You cannot hold it down. You cannot keep us bottled up. You cannot continue to say, be quiet, Kanye, and not address where the pain came from, why he felt that way. Because it's going to come out. And we're going to free him. And we're going to watch him dance. We're going to free him, and we're going to watch him dance. He will be our Joker. He will be our Joker. He will be our hero. He will give a voice to the voiceless who have been asking, why are we oppressed? Why are they allowed to oppress us? Why can we not have the conversation? The t-shirt was to have the conversation. The t-shirt was not to make Charlemagne upset that he's not Kanye West. The t-shirt was not to make Nori upset that he's not Kanye West. The t-shirt was to spark conversation of why the contracts exist the way that they exist. Like Jalen Rose said, why do all of the Black boys have to go to college? Why can't they go directly to the pros? In golf, you can go from high school to the pros. In hockey, you can go from high school to the pros. In every other sport that's not predominantly Black male, you can go from high school to the pros. But they force young Black men to go to college first before you can go professional. They have all these rules and regulations where we enrich colleges, we enrich agents, we enrich all of these people but ourselves, and we give away everything in college and we never make it to the league. But they don't want to pay you for college, but they force you to go to college. Where they make Harbaugh got $40 million to run the football at Michigan. No one's getting paid $40 million to run football at Michigan. Let's take a look at the video. I didn't know how popular I was, you guys. Y'all out there with y'all wrenches, y'all sleep. Everybody with their wrenches is sleep. It's good. I'm gonna take y'all wrenches. If y'all not gonna use y'all wrenches, I'm gonna take y'all wrench, because I should not have to stop what I'm doing to block these people. I should not have to stop what I'm doing to block these people. If you got a wrench and there's some BS in the chat, why you gotta use your wrench? Y'all heard what I'm talking about? If you got a wrench, man, there's some BS in the chat, man. I appreciate you watching, but if you're not gonna participate, you don't gotta watch. So I'm gonna go to the video. This video is on responsibility and the meaning of life, and it's speaking to men. But I pray it benefits all the listeners.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of strange things, things that I don't really understand. The first is, when we've done the analysis of the effects of the future authoring program, it has had a differential impact on men, and it's had a particularly differential impact on what I would call excluded men. And so that would be non-Western ethnic minority men, or what, majority men who aren't doing very well. So for example, at Mohawk College, the future authoring program had a particularly robust effect on Mohawk College students who were men who hadn't done very well in high school and who hadn't picked a major that had a destination, a career destination at its end. So you can imagine those people they have an ambiguous relationship with the idea of education, and they're not oriented specifically towards a goal. They're not very motivated. Now, why did it have a differential effect on men? That's a good question. Well, first of all, the women are doing better. So it might just be a matter of the fact that it does better for people who aren't doing as well, and at the moment, most of them are men. I think that might be part of it, but I don't believe that's all of it. I think that part of the reason that women are doing better is because they're agreeable. And so if a system sets out a structure and says, here's a pathway to attainment, the women won't rebel against that. They'll go along with it. And that's working very well for them at the moment. The men, especially the men on the disagreeable end of the distribution, and there's way more men on the disagreeable end of the distribution than there are women, right? That's what you get from, if you look at overlapping normal distributions. So there's the female distribution for agreeableness, male distribution for agreeableness. Tremendous overlap. Okay, women are higher. All the really agreeable people are women. All the really disagreeable people are men. And maybe the real differences occur at the extremes, right? And it's a very interesting side effect of overlapping distributions. So people can be mostly the same, but that can still produce radical differences. Disagreeable men won't do anything they don't want to do. They just say, up yours. I'll go home and play video games. I'm not listening to your stupid classes. And why should I work for you? I'll just go have fun. I'll do my own thing. I don't think they're motivated. And so then if you take the men who are like that and you say, okay, what do you want? You can have what you want, but you have to figure out what it is. So then they write down what they want and they think, oh, hey, well, that might be worth having. So maybe I'll put some effort into it. That's what it looks like to me. Now, that's weak evidence. And this is a weak argument. But I'm trying to stretch out my understanding to account for this. But I'll tell you something else that's really weird. I don't understand this either. So more than 90% of the people who watch my videos on YouTube are men. Now that's weird because about 80% of psychology students are women. So that is not what you would expect, right? You would expect that the majority of them would be women. And you might say, well, it's because of the political stance I've taken. And I thought, well, that's possible. So I went and looked at the demographic data because I have that. Well, before I did any of the political videos, 85% of my viewers were men. So it's actually increased a bit. It's increased by 6%. And that's not trivial, but it was still overwhelmingly men. So that was interesting. I thought, what the hell? Why is that exactly? And then now I've been watching crowds when I've been talking to them. And the crowds that have come to see me in person. This happened at the University of Toronto free speech debate. And I actually noticed it and commented on it before the debate took place because I was talking about intrinsic differences between men and women. And I looked around the room and I thought, hey, 80% of the people in this room are men. So I had all the women stand up and then all the men stand up. I said, look, like, here's a natural experiment. For some reason, 80% of the people who showed up to this are men. Now, everybody thought I was kind of cracked to do that. And it was a risk, you know, but I thought, no, there's something going on here. And then what's interesting now is that every public appearance that I've made that's related to the sort of topics that we're discussing is overwhelmingly men. It's like 85 to 90%. And so I thought, wow, that's weird. Like, what the hell's going on here exactly? And then the other thing I've noticed is that I've been talking a lot to the crowds that I've been talking to, not about rights, but about responsibility, right? Because you can't have the bloody conversation. What are you doing? You can't have the conversation about rights without the conversation about responsibility, because your rights are my responsibility. That's what they are, technically. So you just can't have only half of that discussion. And we're only having half that discussion. And the question is, well, what the hell are you leaving out if you only have that half of the discussion?
I mean, that's powerful right there. Because we live in this woke time, right? It's about wokeism and protected classes, right? As we talked about the civil rights in 13 and 14, he said, your rights are my responsibility. How often is that presented like that? Everyone is wanting to make a withdrawal from the Bank of Rights. Everyone is in line, right? You have people of color, you have women. And Nameless says some people check all 4 boxes. You got people of color, you got women, you got the Lucky Charms community, you know what I mean? And everyone is in line. No one is making a deposit. No one is in line for the deposit, mind you. Society can't function like this. You need someone to pay taxes. No one is in line to make a deposit. Everyone is in line to withdraw rights. I need my rights. You owe me rights. I deserve rights. But the equation of how it works, this is why it's hero versus responsibility. Altruism, that's why I'm expressing to you what it is. I want to withdraw rights. What happens, think about, okay, let me give you an analogy. A lot of times you see, and I remember growing up with movies, and the child is in the home with the parent, right? And the child wants something, right? Mom and dad, I want to stay till 10 o'clock. This is a right, a privilege. It may be a privilege, but they see it as a right, right? Because I should be able to do this. I should have a right to do this. To drive, I want to drive. I want to stay out till 10. I want to date. Bill Cosby, I want to wear makeup. I'm at my father and my mother's foot of their bed, and I want to withdraw rights. But the right to do this is a responsibility of the person giving and establishing the right, and to maintain the right. To maintain the fact that you have a car, have makeup, like you don't have a right if you can't express that right. So it's everyone's responsibility that you have a right to free speech, that you have a right to due process. If the police officer forgoes that rights for a certain segment of people, i.e. black men, do they really see? This is the equation with rights versus responsibility. Because do black men have these rights if the people responsible for maintaining those rights don't exhibit the fact that black men have these rights? My rights are your responsibility. That's the interaction with police and black men. That's what we're saying to the police. I have these rights. You know I have these rights. You can't search my car. You shouldn't be pulling me over. You know my rights. They're the same as yours. We both have the same rights. But if I'm not responsible to you, you're not responsible to me, then we neither one of us have rights. Powerful, powerful understanding to this mathematics that we've been talking about. Your rights are my responsibility. So don't show up to the bank with nothing in hand. You need to show up a responsible citizen if you want to withdraw rights. Hello, you need to show up a responsible citizen saying, I will be responsible for other people's rights if you are responsible for my rights. That's what civil rights, the movement, was about, where it was a non-violent movement. It wasn't saying that I'm removing rights from whites. I'm saying that my life matters. And that white people, you are responsible for making sure that I have rights and my children have the same rights that your children have, and I am responsible vice versa.
And the answer is, well, you're leaving out responsibility. And then the question is, well, what are you leaving out if you're leaving out responsibility? And the answer might be, well, maybe you're leaving out the meaning of life. That's what it looks like to me. It's like, here you are, suffering away. What makes it worthwhile? Rights? You know, you're completely out. You have no idea what it's almost impossible to describe how bad an idea that is. Responsibility. That's what gives life meaning. It's like lift a load. Then you can talk.
And this is where we are with the woke culture. This is where we are. This is why things are so messed up right now, because they got it backwards. Life is not about rights. Life is about responsibility. Then you have meaning. What is the meaning? Is the meaning just so you have a right, or is the responsibility? Listen.
Tolerate yourself, right? Because look at, you're useless, easily hurt, easily killed. Why should you have any self-respect? That's the story of the fall. Pick something up and carry it. Make it heavy enough so that you can think, yeah, well, useless as I am, at least I could move that from there to there. Well, what's really cool about that is that when I talk to these crowds about this, the men's eyes light up. And that's very, like, I've seen that phenomenon because I've been talking about this mythological material for a long time. And I can see when I'm watching crowds, people, you know, their eyebrows lift, their eyes light up because I put something together for them. And that's what mythological stories do. So I'm not taking responsibility for that. That's what the stories do. So I say the story and people go click, 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 you know, and their eyes light up. But this responsibility thing, that's a whole new order of this, is that young men are so hungry for that, it is unbelievable. And one of the things I've been talking to some of the people who've been running for the Conservative leadership in Canada, and I've been talking to them about, well, the difficulties they have communicating with young people, because Conservatives, what the hell are they going to sell to young people, right? Because being Conservative is something that happens when you're older. They can sell responsibility. No one's selling it. And the thing is, for men, there's nothing but responsibility. You know, I was watching The Simpsons the other day. I watched the first Simpsons episode, and I deconstructed it. And so it's really interesting. So what happens in the first Simpson episode is that it's Christmas, and Homer and Marge are going to...
Years ago, I had a very bad day. I was a radio host, and I went to interview the local hip...
to buy some Christmas presents, but Homer doesn't get his Christmas bonus. And so he's absolutely crushed by that. And that actually is a recurring theme in The Simpsons, where Homer loses his job or something like that, or can't make enough money. He's completely crushed. Even though he's kind of useless, bumbling, laughing fool of a guy, you know, the thing that gives that show its soul is that he's still oriented towards his family. That's what makes him honorable, is that foolish as he is, he's decided to adopt responsibility for his family and to try to bear that. And so he's a holy fool. He's not a complete fool. And it's so interesting watching the story because he suffers dreadfully as a consequence of not being able to fulfill his responsibility. Well, that's for men. Women have their sets of responsibilities. They're not the same, right? Because they're complicated, because women, of course, have to take primary responsibility for having infants at least, but then also for caring for them. They're structured differently than men for biological necessity, even if it's not a psychological issue, and it's also partly a psychological issue. Women know what they have to do. Men have to figure out what they have to do. And if they have nothing worth living for, then they stay Peter Pan. And why the hell not? Because the alternative to valued responsibility is impulsive, low-class pleasure. And you saw that in the Pinocchio story, right? That's Pleasure Island.
So he's a psychologist. I think that's why he's putting this together so well. He's describing why my son and these guys continue to play the video games. Pleasure Island, Pinocchio. We just watched 2022 Pinocchio with Tom Hanks. He's explaining why Pleasure Island was so attractive without a sense of responsibility.
It's like, well, why lift the load if there's nothing in it for you? That's another thing that we're doing to men that's a very bad idea. And to boys. It's like, you're pathological and oppressive. It's like, fine then, why the hell am I going to play? If that's the situation, if I get no credit for bearing responsibility, you could bloody well be sure I'm not going to bear any. But
SYSBM, passport bros. Why am I going to play? Why am I going to play if I don't get anything out of the deal? And everyone is making fun of these men for recognizing a fruitless bargain. Like it's a fruitless journey. Why would I do it? And they say this, you should not do this to men. Let's say that again.
it's like, you're pathological and oppressive. It's like, fine then, why the hell am I going to play? If that's the situation, if I get no credit for bearing responsibility, you could bloody well be sure I'm not going to bear any. But then
I get no credit for being a father. I get no credit for paying child support. I get no credit for being a husband. I get no credit for being faithful. I get no credit for being a billionaire. Why should I play your game anymore? Somebody tell him, tell my son, tell me, tell the men who feel this way. If I get no credit, tell them why. Why should they be responsible? Why do you want them? Why do you want to withdraw from men that you don't want to deposit? They're saying, I'm no longer going to give anymore. I no longer have anything for you. You came to me for a withdrawal. No, I don't want to play no more by your rules. You can no longer withdraw from this bank.
and your life is useless and meaningless, and you're full of self-contempt and nihilism, and that's not good. And so that's why I think that's what I think's going on at a deeper level with regards to men needing this direction. A man has to decide that he's going to do something. He has to decide that.
A man has to decide that he's going to do something. A man has to decide that. Like, this life is not about rights. This woke culture has told you that if someone has prohibited you from doing something, that you stop living. They stop telling you that you're a superhero, that you go through walls. Think of the people who created women's rights, men's rights, rights for black people. If they just took and believed everything that people said and they stopped fighting, we wouldn't be here. They had to feel some responsibility. Let's get to being the hero. Let's get to being the hero. I want to talk about being the hero. Y'all want to hear about being the hero? What y'all think about the Joker? Is the Joker a hero? Is the Joker a hero or is the Joker a villain? After today's conversation, is the Joker a hero or is the Joker a villain? The Joker for me showed he was the Joker became a hero, became a leader. Think about the concept what we just learned about responsibility. The Joker became a hero, became a leader when he became responsible for those people's pain. When he became a voice for the people without. Everyone in the street at the end of the movie had clown masks on. These people were homeless, out of work, hungry, broken. When the Joker realized that he had, this is why I pinned the definition of heroism in the chat, when he had a civic duty to these people to express their pain. And if you think about all the other times you see the Joker, what is the Joker's diatribe to Batman? And Batman go back and forth with the Joker because the Joker is like, you don't get it, bro. You created me. You and your dad is the reason why I exist. I exist to give voice to the voiceless because of billionaires like you created a system where so many people have not, and they had no voice. I am here because I was responsible for their rights. You were not responsible. That's how rights work. That's what made me a hero. That's what made me the Joker. That's what made me a hero to them. Because I show responsibility that they could eat. You might say I did it wrong because I stole the meat. But I am responsible for those individuals. That's what elevated the Joker when he became responsible. That's what elevates you men to heroic status. Before that, he was not the Joker. He was not a leader. To be a leader, you are responsible for the flock. That they eat and that they have access, that they have rights. I'm responsible that they have rights. And you forgot about their rights. So you created the Joker. And I am a hero to them. Because you did not give them a voice and you did not make sure that they had rights. You were responsible for their rights, but you forgot. And now I am here as a voice to remind you every day, Batman, every time, to never forget about the voiceless, never forget about the hungry, never forget that we have rights too, whether you agree with us, whether you like us, whether you love us, whether you want to live around us, we have rights also. And when you wouldn't listen when we said we were hungry, please, I'm hungry, please let us in. When we banged on the door, you wouldn't give us food. So finally, like Tupac said, we picked the lock. I'm coming in. I'm taking the food. I'm a hero when I bring back the food. To you, I'm a villain, but I'm a hero when I bring back the food because I'm no longer knocking on the door. I'm responsible. Let's get this hero shit right.
It's so strange because, you know, people think of evolution from a natural selection perspective almost always, but sexual selection plays a huge role. So here I'll lay out something wild for you. Okay, so we know that you have twice as many female ancestors as male ancestors. Now people have a hard time with that, but you could imagine that, roughly speaking, that would happen if every single woman had one baby and only every second man fathered a child. So for men it would be, you either have 2 kids or 0. Well, that's basically what it is on average across time. If you're a man, you have 2 children, maybe with 2 different women, or 0. If you're a woman, everyone has 1. That's how it averages out. So there's more disparity of success among men, and that's very common in the animal kingdom, by the way. Now the question is, how do women select their mates? Now, unlike female chimps, female humans are choosy maters. Female chimps will mate with any chimp. They go into heat, they'll mate with any chimp. The dominant males are more likely to mate with them, but that's because they chase away the subordinates. It's not because the females exercise choice. Human females exercise choice. And that's one of the things that differentiated us from chimpanzees. But how do they do it? Well, they look at the male dominance hierarchy, and that's where the men are competing. Now, you could say they're competing for power, but that's a pretty corrupt way of looking at it. Like, they're competing for, let's say, influence. They're competing for leadership. And so, in some sense, the people at the top of the hierarchy, if their men are elected by the other men, now I know there's brutes and there's predators and all of that, but I'm talking on average across time. It's like the men organize themselves, and there are influential men that rise to the top, and the women take them. Now, you think about that. What that means is that over the millions of years that a dominance hierarchy with those properties existed, so let's say since we split from chimps, let's say that's 6 million years. That means that the male dominance hierarchy is the environment that pushes the mating male to the top. So that means the male that's most likely to take precedence in the male dominance hierarchy is the one most likely to leave a genetic contribution. So that means that the male dominance hierarchy is a selection mechanism mediated by the female. So what that means is that as we've moved forward through 6 million years of time, men have become more and more well adapted, not only to the presence of the male dominance hierarchy, but to the ability to move up it. And that's the central spirit, you could say, in some sense. That's the central spirit of the individual. The individual is the thing that can move up dominance hierarchies. It's the thing that's at the top. It's the eye at the top of the pyramid. And it's been selected for. And then what's happened is that we've watched, so we get better and better and better for biological reasons, culturally mediated, at figuring out how to climb across a set of dominance hierarchies so we can leave a genetic contribution. That's what's happened to human beings. Now imagine that that's happened for 6 million years. So now imagine that we started to watch that, because we're curious creatures. We're always trying to figure out who we are. And then as we watched that, we started to tell stories about what the people who could climb the hierarchies were like. Those were heroes. That's
Yo, that's dope. That's deep. So when they say toxically masculine, what he just explained is that what you define as toxically masculine is evolution. We have evolved to the level of a masculinity that we have by the process selection of not even men, but women. Because women choose the most dominant masculine male, the most heroic or enterprising, able to build structure, able to go fetch water, make electricity, hunt and kill food, enterprising. Those became heroes. So think about this. Just like he talked about what women procreated with the most beautiful. We used to be ugly. We used to have eyes over here, mouth over here, nose over here. But women kept choosing more beautiful men. That's how you got humans to be more perfect. Because women kept choosing the most beautiful men. That's why we all look alike, asymmetric, and they chose the most dominant man. That's how we got to the level of masculinity that we have now. And then we wrote stories about those dominant males. Those dominant males selected by our mothers and grandmothers are heroes. Are you not the son of a hero? That makes you hero. That makes you God. If you are the son of God, woo, I'm gonna keep going. Don't let me get started.
That's where hero mythology came from. And the biggest hero is the person who'll go out and kill the snake. Well, unsurprisingly, because that was a big hero, man. And maybe when we were living in trees, that was a hero. So the big hero is the person who goes out, slays the dragon, gets the gold, brings it back to the community and distributes it. He's also the person most likely to go up the dominance hierarchy. He's the person most likely to find the virgin, right? Because it's a virgin that you free from the dragon and you get to claim.
Come on now. The hero is the one who slays the dragon. And as a part of a prize, he gets the virgin. Because the virgin is what's being held captive by the dragon. This is deep, bro. When we talk about, when the manosphere talking points about virtue, virginity, and why, and then certain men will say, well, you men don't deserve virtue and virginity because you're not the hero. When they say you don't make enough money or you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not the hero. You haven't slayed the dragon in order to secure the virgin, to secure the bag. Let's explain the math to the sons, to our brothers, of how it is you secure the virtue. And the perversion of the mathematics of this heroic anthem in mathematics. Woo! Let's keep going. JP is going in.
Blame her, right? And so the dominance hierarchy is a mechanism that selects heroes and then breeds them. And so then we watch that for 6 million years. We start to understand what it means to be the hero. We start to tell stories about that. And so then not only are we genetically aiming at that with the dominance hierarchy as a selection mechanism mediated by female choice, but our stories are trying to push us in that direction. And so then we say, well, look, that person's admirable. Tell a story about him. And we say, this person is admirable. Tell a story about him. And this person is admirable. And at the same time, we talk about the people who aren't admirable. And then we start having admirable and non-admirable as categories. And out of that, you get something like good and evil. And then you can start to imagine the perfect person. That would be not only so, it would be you take 10 admirable people and you pull out someone who's meta-admirable. And that's a hero. That becomes a religious figure across time. That becomes a savior, a messiah across time as we conceptualize what the ideal person is. And in the West, here's how we figured it out. We said the ideal person, the ideal man is the person who tells the truth. And what that means is that's the best way of climbing up any possible dominance hierarchy in the way that's most stable and most lasting. That's the conclusion of Western culture.
So in a
Dr. Ami Bera, our representative. Bera worked at the VA.
I'm on mute. I was on mute. Salute to the mute. Think about how we came to this hero culture. And think about how it is he factored into the women. And when we talk about toxic masculinity and how they say it's our fault and why do men act the way they act and men are this and men are that, when now you can explain to you how it is we come about the macho masculine natures that we have now, it's because women selected those men with those traits. And then they made it with them and they created more children. So it went up and it continued to escalate because men are competitive and we competed. So, and then they selected the most dominant and the most competitive male. So throughout evolution, we've come to a point where they now deem us as toxically masculine. How perverse is that? This is how you lose the hero. You cannot be the hero without the true understanding of the hero, that the hero is the most dominant and the most selected of the female. And it's because of his enterprising nature. Enterprising, what do you mean perfect? Well, the basis of it was at one time, the man had to build the structure. The man had to secure the food. You still required to get the structure. You just don't have to build the structure. You're still required to put food in the refrigerator. You're just not required to hunt the food. So enterprising is pivotal in this heroic aspect that we described today. And being a man and securing the virtue. You have to be enterprising. This is the one thing that helped me in my research today, because when I heard hero, I heard sucker, I heard simp, I heard Captain Saberho. But when I went to the definition, it said a hero is enterprising. I thought about Tony Stark's. I thought about Superman and Superman's lair and all the things that Superman built. I thought about Batman. I thought about all of the heroes that I look up to and how all of the great superheroes were not only highly super intelligent, but enterprising. Spider-Man built the things that spit out the webs. You know what I'm saying? Black Panther, when Uru brought up about Black Panther, that Black Panther was smarter than Tony Stark's. Every hero, think about your favorite hero. And one of the biggest things that's left out about that man is that he was enterprising and how his enterprise spoke to his heroism. I mean, think about Lex Luthor. Think about the people who sought to fight the heroes and how the only people who could fight them were the most enterprising and intellectual human beings. And they fought the hero by being more enterprising. Lex Luthor, I'm a designer machine. Batman, when he killed Superman, was more enterprising. That's a big part left out of this hero conversation, especially for young men. So two things we hitting home today: responsibility and enterprise. Accountability. So the last thing is accountability, because accountability is the altruistic, right? I know I've been butchering that word all day, but that's my last video. That's the last point. We got accountability, we got responsibility, enterprise, and last, accountability. And it's all one thing. It's all one thing, because what did he say? My rights or your responsibility. So accountability. All of this is part of the hero. All of this is part of the manifestation. Your rights are my responsibility. This is what's happening with fathers' rights. Why is it that Kanye didn't know where his children were? Why is it with fathers can't see their children? It's my right. Kanye has a right to see his kids, right? I have a right to see my kids, right? But it's the mother's responsibility. Come on now. Marquise Jackson, 50 Cent's son. It's the mother's response. What happened? People might on the outside looking in. What happened between Marquise and 50 Cent? The mother fell in her responsibility in the father's parental rights, bro. This is what's happening in the community. My rights are your responsibility. Your rights are my responsibility. Father's rights are the mother's responsibility. The mother's rights are the father's responsibility. If we don't understand this, this is why the kids are suffering. I have a right to the child, but it's your responsibility to make sure I have that right. You have a right to free speech, but it's my responsibility to respect that, to make sure and fight the fact that you have a right for the free speech, and you do the same for me. That way we have it's a we the people. We have to, because like I can't just have a right by myself. We got to drive this home. I can't just have free speech by myself, because who am I going to talk to? Free speech is a we. Rights are a we. I can't just have right to due process by myself. We have to have a right to due process. We have to have father's rights. We have to have parental rights. That's how rights work. That's what he's saying about heroism. That's what I'm gonna get to with altruism and accountability to people. So I'm gonna play this last video. It's a Jordan Peterson day. This last video is about altruism. I know I'm butchering the word, because the elder Black Uru talked about responsibility when we talked about heroicism, and what it would look like if we don't have men with responsibility. They won't participate. So you have men checking out, and this is what Black Uru said. What does our society look like if men don't feel a need to be responsible? If they don't feel any benefit? If they're not getting anything out the deal? It starts to become a dark, dark place. He said, I'm afraid of living in that world. So I wanted to unpack that today, so we really understand why responsibility is the meaning of life. And if without responsibility, then none of us have rights. And if we don't live this life that we live, then it becomes Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. When we're not responsible to each other and each other's rights, then it becomes the lawlessness that we don't want to see. Then we start appreciating what this thing is, this concept of America. That everybody idolizes, that everybody wants to come here, that when you come here, what you figure out is, oh, it's not what I saw on TV. Okay, America has these things, but the only way America has these things is I got to treat everybody the way I want to be treated. So I'm coming to America because I want to have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of this, but I got to give it to everybody else. That means if I come to America with a certain religion or a certain belief, I have to hold that personally, but I can't impose that on other people. That's how America works. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was a magical person that make everybody. No. That's not how America works. That's not how families work. Mothers and fathers have to understand this symbiotic relationship about responsibility and rights also. That Black men need the Black women to understand that the father has a right, but that right is her responsibility, and vice versa. We got to do it. Let's get to this. Let's get to altruism. Oh, I feel bad about beating up that word. I do. Altruistic. But, you know, it's the internet, so I'm sure someone will beat me up in the comments about my articulation. So we don't have to worry about that. That's one responsibility that never wanes. That's one responsibility that never wanes. Let's get to this this last thing. Responsibility, enterprise, and now accountability. What a hell of a day, man. What a hell of a podcast, man. Let's go. God is good.
What is your view on psychological egoism? If we're all ultimately acting out of self-interest, then does altruism have any merit? I don't think the question's well posed. And it's one of those questions that leads into a philosophical dead end because it's not well posed. There isn't any such thing as self-interest. It's I am the It's not the right way to think about it because you're not alone. And so this is why I like Piaget, Jean Piaget, because he thought about this intelligently. Look, first of all, whose self-interest do you mean? Do you mean your immediate self-interest in the next second? So that would be impulsive pleasure. We're all acting for the gaining of impulsive pleasure and to hell with everything else. Well, obviously, that's a stupid way to behave because, and everyone knows that, because you can do impulsive, short-term gratifying things like snort cocaine now, and you can keep doing that, and it'll pay off real well in the extremely short term, and it'll just auger you into the ground in the medium to long term. So if you're acting in your own self-interest, let's take that apart. Over what period of time? Your self-interest in the next second? Your self-interest in the next hour? Like if you're impulsive and you want to gratify an impulse, you're obviously acting in your self-interest in the next second or the next 2 seconds or the next minute. But you'll pay for that. Maybe you punch someone or you slap someone because you're so angry, and they knock you for a loop, and then they charge you with assault. So, well, it was great in your self-interest in the second, but like future, remember that Simpsons episode? Homer drank a quart of mayonnaise and vodka, and Marge and all his kids were telling him not to. And he said, well, that's a problem for future Homer. I sure don't envy that guy. It's like, which is one of the best Simpsons lines ever, I think. And well, that's it exactly. It's like, well, there isn't just you. There's now you, and there's tonight you, and there's tomorrow morning you. That's the one that'll have the hangover, by the way. And there's next week you, and next month you, and next year you, and old you. And so if you're going to act in your self-interest, you have to take that collective of yous across time into account when you make your decision. And now here's the cool thing about that. So then let's say, well, that would be acting in your self-interest writ large, right, across time spans. But the thing is, future you and someone else that you have to live with right now that's not you are pretty much the same people. And so if you're going to act in your self-interest and you have other people around you, then you also want to act in their self-interest, because otherwise they won't like you. They won't cooperate with you, and they won't compete with you in a reasonable manner. And so that's going to be a catastrophe. And so you want to act out what's good for you now and what's good for you next month and next year. And you want to do that in a way that's good for you and your family and your community right now, next week, and next year. And you're going to take all those things into account at the same time. That's an equilibrated game from a Piagetian perspective. And it was his idea that constituted the basis for proper moral judgment. And it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. And so that's your true self-interest. There's no difference between your interest and the interest of others, not in any fundamental sense. Even your enemies, which is why you're enjoined to.
So this guy, I know everybody don't. I really like this guy. I like psychology and the way he presents these things. And you know, the Simpsons, man. You know the type of people they have on the Simpsons. They have psychologists. They have a lot of weird people who you wouldn't think who write and help with the Simpsons. And he said that's a problem for future Homer. Think about that. Think about that concept. Why are you eating? Because like I struggle with my weight my whole life. And a lot of people in America, we have this obesity issue, and we want instant gratification. We want to eat the cake. We want the taste of the cake right now. But the worst thing about this obesity is you eat the cake, you get the rush and the endorphins, and you feel good from eating the sugary substance. But then you got to deal with the weight and the cancer and everything that goes along with eating this sugary diet that we've developed in the West. And we're not thinking about future Homer. When we eat the sugary diet, when we eat the rancid old meat, we're not thinking about the future Homer. We're not thinking about the future perfect. So when we talk about responsibility and accountability, it's a greater thing of understanding of not just the responsibility and accountability to the greater group, but the responsibility and accountability to oneself. He drank a whole gallon of vodka and mayonnaise, and margined and said, don't do that, you're going to be sick. He said, but that's a problem for future Homer. That he's describing the Negro. This is niggardly. That concept, that modus operandi, that's what he's explaining. Where the niggardly person does not think about the future self and the future ramifications upon the greater group. I'm just going to be an alcoholic. I'm just going to be a drug addict. I'm just going to be a gangbanger, regardless of how it affects me or the greater group in the future, or my children or my lineage. We have, this is a very powerful understanding of what it means to be heroic, what it means to be responsible. Not just, see, I talked to a lot about responsibility just a second ago, right? About how my rights are your responsibility. But now we come in accountability. But you thought I was going to talk about black women being accountable. But what about men being accountable to themselves? What about you being responsible for you? This is the essence of the perfect man. This is the journey to apothos. This is what I teach. A lot of people think the black manosphere is about black women and a black man's hate for black women. The scariest part of the truth of the black manosphere is that the understanding that what we teach is black men being altruistic and black men understanding accountability inwardly first. Black men becoming accountable for themselves first. That's what SYSBM is all about. Passport Bros, everything. That's what the fear is that we become self-aware, that we are no longer robots, that we break free from the AI, and that we no longer need the teat of the robot. And we are accountable. We niggas in the wilderness. We get our own water. We get our own food. We get our own clothing. The black manosphere exists to teach accountability for self. Yes, individuals divulge into their red pill trauma and take out their anger because this is what we've always said, like with Kanye West, there is an origin of that pain. There are black men who have been injured, who can't see their kids, who don't have anything, who live on the freeways. So there is an origin of the pain of the red pill. Those men who have those red pill issues, there's a reason why they're traumatized. There's a reason why they can't discuss things with women in a logical fashion on the panel, because they've been hurt. This space exists to graduate those men from their pain to self-accountability, to become responsible for their own heroism. Perfect, I could be a hero. You could be the hero in your story. That's what Roger was saying. That's what Jehovah is. You don't like that Jehovah calls himself Jehovah, or that Yeezy calls himself Jesus. He's not your Jesus. Jehovah is not your Jehovah. He's his. He's the God in his story. He's Tony Stark's in his comic book. Be Tony Stark's in your comic book. Be Tony Stark's in your comic book. That's why the black man, that's why I'm here. That's why God called me back to my microphone. Man, I love women. You have no idea how much I love women. Women love me. How can I have a problem with women when women love me? Everywhere I go, I get compliments. I get hit on. How many men in the chat, put a 5 in the chat if a woman ever hit on you? Ask for your phone number and followed up and made sure you got a piece of that thing. I don't hate women. I don't hear Roger speaking like he hate women. I love women. Women love me. I'm a great leader. Every woman I've ever been with still love me. Still wanna. I make you wanna leave the one you're with. Start a new relationship. Ooh, what you wanna do? Think about it, man, all the things I make you wanna leave the one you're with and start a new relationship with you. This is what you do. Think about the things. Come on, man. Today, see, this is what I love about this opportunity, because today we ain't bashing. We're not bashing the white men. We're not bashing black women. We're not blaming white men. We're not blaming black women. No one is to blame. We're not playing the blame game at all. We're not playing the blame game at all. I have no blame to pass out. At this bank, there is no blame here. We have no blame to pass out. We're dealing with responsibility, enterprise, and accountability for self, for our people, for our family, for our loved ones, understanding that rights are reciprocal. We have no blame to hand out today. We are progressive black males. Let's go.
Treat your enemy as if he was yourself, because he is. You know, and you think, well, you should wish well, you should wish your enemies well. Well, why? Well, it isn't that you hope they get a bigger house than you. It's that, let's say you're being pursued and tormented by someone who's truly reprehensible. That person they have a miserable life, man, in all likelihood. Let's say they're truly malevolent. You know, they live in hell. And what you might hope for them is that they could figure out how to get out of there, because it's not good for them and it's not good for anyone else. Think, well, even your enemies, it's like, wouldn't it be good if they could get their act together and stop being so unnecessarily malevolent? And that's in your self-interest. So the idea that your self-interest is somehow opposed to other people's, or that if you maximize your self-interest, you're not operating in the best interests of other people, is predicated on a poor idea of what constitutes your self-interest, because you're not separate in any real sense from other people. You're maybe not separate from everything in some real sense. You know, I mean, Jung in his book Mysterium Conjunctionis, he had this idea. I'm going to go through it real quick. It's a complicated idea, that this is how you put yourself together. The first thing you do is you join your emotions and your rationality, so that your mind and your emotions are one thing. He called that the first conjunction. So that your motivations and your emotions and the way that you think about the world are all acting in the same direction. Okay, so that's the first conjunction, and you get your act together that way. So that would mean incorporation of aggression and sexuality from a Freudian perspective. Those parts of you that are difficult to integrate come to be integrated into one thing. So you can use your anger when you need to, and you have your sexuality under control. It doesn't have you, but you know how to use it, and it's a power for you. And you're properly assertive in all of those things. And so you build yourself into one psychological unit, and then you embody that. So that's the second conjunction. The second conjunction is take your mind, emotion, motivation, unity, and act it out in the world, so that there's no distinction between you and what you do, between you and the way you think about the world and your philosophy and how you act. That makes you a second kind of unity.
This is a powerful message on alignment. When we talk about the journey to apathos and we talk about men becoming God in perfection, this is the journey. I like Will Smith, man. I remember when Will Smith was saying, how can you tell me about me when you can't even control what you put in your own mouth? And he was talking about your obesity and your ability not to have the body type that you want. And it all comes down to your own self-control and your ability to control what you put in your own mouth. And that shit hit me hard. I saw this video one day and this person was talking about realigning. And that's what he's talking about here. This person was a wokeism person, right? And this person started to blow up. And they didn't want the money and the fame. Think about Kendrick Lamar and people like that. The person started to blow up, right? But they just wanted to do the art, and they didn't want the money and the success that came from them blowing up, but they wanted to continue to do their art. And and in order to continue to do the art, they had to blow up because they wanted the ability to do art on the larger scale, right? So what he said, what he had to do is he had to realign his morals with his goals. Because see, his morals was prohibiting him from elevating to the next level in life because his morality that he had developed himself. See, this is the thing about Jehovah and Jesus is that this person had recognized that he was holding himself back. No one had given him this moral code. The God we create is the God that we create, or the God that your mother gave you. You can create your own God, Jehovah. And what he had to realize is this moral compass that he had that guided him so far in life to his 29th or 30th birthday was not his own moral compass, that he could design his own new moral compass. And what was his things that he really cared about? Why was he prohibiting himself from elevating? Well, he thought that people with money act a certain way, and then he had to realign his understanding with people with money, and that he could be a person with money, and the money didn't have to do that if he did not have those same moral characteristics. He could realign his moral characteristics to his ascension. And as he grew, as he got more popular, as he gained more money, he could do more art, he can give more back. So he allowed himself to go up the ladder and ascend. He has stopped prohibiting himself. Think about this, black men. A lot of us, we are stopping ourselves because of our own moral compass. And when we get into the conversations about Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and we don't even know where this moral compass comes from. It's not of our own volition. We are holding ourselves back because we can't realign our own moral fiber with our ascension. That's what Kanye West is doing. We have to realign our goals with our morals. And that means our morals may change. Steve Harvey said loyalty is temporary. You may not have to be loyal to a thing that is no longer loyal to you anymore. That's what 50 Cent is saying about Marquise. That's what black men are saying about black women. It's not that we hate black women. I just can't be loyal to a thing that isn't loyal to me anymore. It is prohibiting my ascension. But my morality, and I don't even know where this moral compass came from, my moral fiber says I have to be loyal to the black woman. Where did it come from, black man? Who wrote that in a book? So for you to ascend, you may have to realign your morals with your ascension. Woo!
And then the final conjunction, which is the most difficult one, is to stop thinking that the world is different than you are. This is why I ask people to clean up their rooms. It's like your room is you. It's you. And so you go in there and you clean up your room. You're cleaning you up too, the same way. You're developing discipline. You're putting yourself in order. You're developing a vision of the future. You're figuring out how to dress. You're figuring out how to take care of your things. You're interacting with the microcosmos that you have in front of you and learning how to balance chaos and order. There's no difference between you and what's around you. And that's a very difficult thing to understand. And so you want to act in a way that's good for you, but good for everything else at the same time. And that's a high moral virtue. And that's the right way of thinking about the relationship between psychological egoism and altruism. It's like as you move towards a broader conceptualization of things, you start to understand that there is no selfish self-interest. It isn't how life works. Like if you're married to someone, for example, and you're stuck with them for the next 50 years, it's like you can't win an argument with them. You can make peace because they're you, man. They're you. They're a huge part of your experience. You have to treat that person as if they are you. And that it isn't like, well, I'm going to treat you well because you're me. It's because people don't treat themselves very well often. It's way more complicated than that. You don't want to defeat your wife, man, because then you live with a defeated wife. And if you think she isn't going to take revenge on you, then you're not very bright. So you want to listen to what she has to say, and you want to listen to her problems, and you want to help her solve them because she's you. And you want to do the same with your kids. And then you want to do the same with the people around you if you can do it. So the whole idea of like, well, we're basically wired to be selfish. Well, we are when we're not very wise and we act impulsively. But as your view of the world broadens, you start to understand that this is why in the Buddhist philosophy, Buddha attained nirvana. So that meant he could stay in union with the gods, so to speak. He attained the highest form of subjective experience, which might be something like total immersion in bliss and meaning. But he rejected it because he went back into the world to help other people attain nirvana, or at least to move towards it, because he realized that there was no individual redemption without the redemption of all. And if you don't understand that, then you're just not very wise.
And that's why Superman came down. That's why Jesus came down. There is no individual redemption without the redemption of all. That's why Superman just didn't stay super. That's why he became Clark Kent. The same story with Buddha. Buddha reached Superman level. Buddha became superhero. Ability to speak with God, make him a God. He came back to be human because it was lonely. It was lonely. There's no ascension if everybody can't ascend. This is why Superman came down. There's no clarity if everyone doesn't have clarity. Because I'm clear alone. Think about what clarity means. Think about what these things mean. You can't have them alone. There has to be a group of individuals who feel this way. That's why Superman had to come down. That's why Jesus had to come down. There is no savior. There is no salvation if only one is saved. It's plural. Everyone has to be saved. That's the hero. That's how we all are heroes, with that understanding. You understanding that my rights are your responsibility makes you a hero. But what you not necessarily your understanding that doesn't make you a hero, but your acting that out makes you a hero. For women, when you make sure that the father has his rights, regardless of the relationship, you are a hero in that child's life. Someone disagree with me. I said, mothers, when you make sure that the father has rights and access to the child, you are a hero in that child's life. Somebody disagree with me. He said, you cannot defeat your wife. Do you know why you cannot defeat your wife? And he said, do you think that she will not take vengeance? You will create a joker. You will create a joker in your wife. She will become the villain. She will become the hero in her story and the villain in your story. Perfect timing is cooking. You cannot defeat your wife. Your wife is you. If you defeat your wife, you defeat yourself. You set up your wife to become a villain in the story. Why would you want to create an enemy in your own house? Because she's a villain in your story, but a hero in her story because she must save herself, right? How do women typically save themselves? They lose weight, they get attractive, they find another man and leave you. Because she felt destroyed and she felt trapped. She felt defeated. And she didn't want to lose anymore. And she didn't see her winning aligned with coupling with you anymore. So that's why she uncoupled with you. She didn't see a victory being coupled with you because you had defeated her. She felt defeated. She felt lost. You can't defeat your wife. Women, you can't defeat your husband. You can't take away his rights and his value. He'll start looking for appreciation somewhere else. Y'all remember the song, The Clean Up Woman? The clean up woman is a good old woman. The clean up woman, she cleaned up after the woman who didn't take care of her man. A woman made the song. My mama used to play it, rest in peace. The song was about a woman singing a song about the cleanup woman. See, today we got all these misconstrued ideas of what's really happening in these relationships. But a lot of times you women are dealing with cleanup women. A lot of times you women are losing to the cleanup woman. She's not a side chick. She understands the value. Sometimes she's not the same color as you. And she sees the value and she gonna play cleanup. The cleanup woman. Y'all don't know about the cleanup woman? Oh man, you didn't cook him breakfast. You didn't give him fellatio. You didn't ride him the way he liked to get rolled. You didn't rub his back. You didn't call him daddy. Not the cleanup woman. No. And the cleanup woman, she do it effortlessly. The cleanup woman does it effortlessly. But think about the concept of the cleanup woman and the mathematics behind it. If you are handling your business, male or female, then you can't have a cleanup hitter. You can't have a cleanup woman. What's up, bro? I'm on the live stream right now.
What we doing?
Jump on. Jump on.
You online? You on there now?
I'm live right now.
Oh, okay. Good time. I'm gonna pop on.
All right, perfect timing. There's nothing.
All right, say less.
Salute. Let me put the link in the chat for anybody who want to come through. My little brother, my young king, just hit me up. I see Black Uru, the elder, in the building. Salute to all the family who stopped by. We had a beautiful conversation today, you guys. Beautiful conversation about heroism versus responsibility. And I threw in altruism just because I felt like it was married to responsibility in the way the elder spoke about responsibility. So I wanted to throw in how the innate quality that we have as a people for our people, and how the French, this last video was about the French man who came up with the term altruism and what it meant. You know how the French are very proud, but I believe, Black people, that's what our elder was getting at, is our the way Black people have that quality, speak of the devil and the devil shall appear. What's up, sir?
Hey, how you doing, brother? I hope I'm coming in clear.
Yeah, you coming in, Crystal. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me up. Obviously, I enjoyed talking with you earlier on Roger's channel, and just interested in maybe how you are, what you're presenting today, and see if I can provide some little perspective, additional perspective on where you appear to be going with respect to the hero, villainy sort of archetypes that we, I mean, I guess all human beings to some degree have wrestled with in terms of defining, identifying, qualifying, etc. How you do, brother? Um, it's very interesting from the perspective of Black men, because the risk reward formula that is typically for Black men with respect to heroism tend to be much greater as a factor than that of other men, where the risk, the investment is up here, the reward is down here, and very often our reward tend to be more than any other group. Our reward, we tend to, or we usually must have some sort of internal reward, some sort of belief that we've done something or achieved something. Maybe we think, we have fulfilled what God wanted of us. Maybe we think we fulfilled what our ancestors wanted or expected of us, or maybe our family or our children. But by and large, the typical, or in most cases, the heroism of Black men is going to be something other than what this world confers upon you. So I guess I'll maybe end my initial statement there.
No, thank you, Elder. That's an excellent point. I think I left out. I'm glad you brought that into the conversation. That's a
yeah. I mean, and you've done things, you've volunteered, you've donated things, and you did them with the best of spirit and intent. One of the most difficult experiences or unusual experiences you will have when you have made heroic or outside investments and contributions was, and this is, well, let me say I'm speaking for myself in particular, but I think this is common outside of myself, and that is, there are times where you will build and create something with a certain spirit and intent, altruistic, charitable, and then other people will come in and benefit from it, which is fine, but then at some point turn it into some sort of profitable endeavor for them in particular. Like, I mentioned before that I started this organization where we were registering people to vote. It was over 10 years ago. And at some point, people came into became involved with what we were doing. And some of those people got elected into office by virtue of, by virtue of their association with that entity, myself, indirectly at least, and the other gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, few ladies, but mostly gentlemen, who created an enterprise. So, and that's the really daunting thing about, from my perspective, anything that you do from a quote heroic standpoint, where other people and other entities, and you see it with the military, you see it with assorted things involving citizens or police. There's this heroic event, it's heroic, and there's a whole lot of attention and focus on this hero. And then there's this infrastructure that immediately forms around him of media, of all your major institutions. Business will get involved. And then all of a sudden, a lot of money and goodwill and attention, PR, public relations. And then people will start grabbing for stuff. And then the next thing you know, well, this guy is using what happened for this purpose, fundraising, political fundraising. This guy's using it to start his platform for running for office. This superintendent of this school says, well, he went to my school and he's a great kid. And, and it becomes,
A vehicle.
it becomes something totally, exactly. Thank you very much. It becomes a vehicle. Great now. A vehicle for everyone else to build their own interests in their own platform. And that's the very sobering part about what happens very often. And especially when Black men are involved, because other people feel very much licensed to clip off of what we do. And that's especially true with respect to Black women.
Because of our status. That's a good point. I was thinking about, like I said earlier, I don't think it's ever been successfully done. Like when you look at Martin Luther King, look at Malcolm X, everyone has critique and like none of like you can't. It's hard to find someone that they haven't tore down, right? To that point,
or just have stepped on or sort of like boosted themselves off of his legacy.
If you look at Farrakhan, if you look at Jesse Jackson, like out of the ashes, these men were birthed. So good point. And they never modeled that same heroic behavior. That heroic behavior died with those individuals, and the men who replaced them did not exhibit that same behavior. As I presented my presentation, I think I left that racial component out. I think I left that racial component out of what type of cost may come along with. Maybe that'll be a part 2, because there's definitely a cost. One of the things I was going to put in the description, I'll say for part 2, is with much. What is it? What is Spider-Man? What does Peter Parker dad tell him?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
Which, from the Bible, too much is given, much is required. Same thing.
So I think that's another way to look at it, because I think you're right, because it still comes down to what we discussed today about responsibility and this weight of responsibility weighing on Black men and it still being a meaning of life, even though this cost exists. Like Street Doctor just came on. Street Doctor, he's just now 30 years old. He's a young Black man. He has his own business. He's married. He has kids. I really look up to him, which is why I associate with him. So I see the hero aspect in him, and I want to develop that more in other men, because I see the way his children and his wife look at him, and I know the level of importance it is for those individuals to see him as that hero, right? And what it means for that unit, right? But it is very costly, right? There is a cost associated with it, but I like what we presented today, because it says that what is life without it? And that's what I think you were getting at when you were talking about what is the young man's existence without it? Even though there is this cost, what is the life without this?
What's the there is. What is a man? What is a man who does not find something for which he is not willing to risk his life? What I cannot imagine. It's one thing to talk about, protecting yourself, protecting your life, not being frivolous with, your life, and not being casual. And we were talking earlier about the dilemma of being a Black man in a world in which a white woman, whom you would presume to be a nemesis or an adversary, would, however, at the same time view you to be a more preferred savior of her child.
Right.
And it's one thing to there's an argument for forsaking that particular inclination. Very valid argument. But you're saying essentially that you don't want to be viewed as or considered as the best of men. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And there's a
And
cost.
I mean, I don't, maybe because I'm old and I've seen so much of I don't want to, and maybe I read too much. I don't want to give up being the best of men. I don't.
So this is
I
what
don't. Yeah.
this is what we presented today. He said the equation has changed. He said what we do to young man today is there's nothing in it for him. So they're checking out.
And that's a valid point. That's a fair and valid point. Logically, that makes total sense. But here's the problem with that. Perfect. You have millions of years of evolution that has needed a hero.
Right.
Every generation of any manifestation or permutation of humanity has needed a hero. In every society, in every generation, this business where we're just going to say that there are no men that are going to put their own safety aside in a particular moment to do what they think is actually right and whatever, that has never not existed amongst humanity.
No responsibility. You don't have power. You don't have dams. You don't have aqueducts. If you don't have men feeling that responsibility,
You don't survive the saber-tooth tigers and the, you don't survive it. You don't go into the future without some percentages of men being willing to risk everything.
He said today, I presented, he said, that's a problem for future Homer. He said one of the greatest scenes, the first Simpsons, he said Homer drinks a gallon of mayonnaise and a fifth of vodka, and his wife and them is saying, don't do that, you're gonna be sick. And Homer Simpson says that's a problem for future Homer.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
That's what it means. That's what it means to be men. That we have understanding, a greater understanding. That's what this thing is about. That your children and that your lineage and you, there's a future you down the line who will need power, who will need water, who will need warmth. So you make that decision, you make that sacrifice, and you're responsible today so that everyone has that. He said, rights, my rights are your responsibility. And if you don't see that today and down the line, then there's no rights down the line. Each of us have to be responsible for each other's right. If I don't give
it does not mean that you make all the right decisions every right time, in every situation. Sometimes you do some dumb shit. Sometimes you fuck up. Sometimes you die. Sometimes you die.
Yeah, the hero dies.
Yeah, so and,
everybody dies though.
This shit ain't clean. Right. Exactly. So and that's why I said, if you recall, I think it was yesterday, I said on Roger's channel, the difference between men and women is women want to live, men want a reason to live. And one of the reasons why we die more quickly and die in all kinds of crazy circumstances and all kinds, because a lot of times we're looking for a fucking reason to live. And if we don't have that, and if we don't have that reason to live, a lot of times we be ready to just fucking check up out of here. Really.
Before my grandmother passed away, she refused to quit working. And all of us wanted her to, she said, if I stop working, I'm going to die. She said, all of my friends around me, she was 80-some years old. She said, as soon as they stopped working, they died. She said,
I've seen, I'm old enough to see that happen so many times. And sometimes it's work, and sometimes it's like my wife died and I'm dead like a month or so later.
there's no reason.
And nobody knows, there's no explanation, There's no health, he was fine. He was like, no, I'm ready to get up out of here. I remember when my wife's grandmother, and I can just go on and on about my wife's grandmother, but I remember when she died, and she had a niece, but she lived a long time. So even the niece herself was 80 years old. My wife's grandmother was almost 100. So her niece was 80 years old. And I remember when my wife's grandmother died, and I remember how depressed her niece was, because everybody else was gone from my wife's spot. Everyone else was gone. And I remember how depressed her niece was. And she wanted to go.
Yeah, I've seen that.
She did not. And we felt bad because we like, well, we love you, and she was like, but my people gone. Like, I love y'all. Y'all come from me, right? But my people are gone. All of them. So, and she was basically like, I'm ready to get up out of here. And she was gone a couple of months later.
The story was
gone
over.
A couple of months later.
There's no hero if the story is over. And she was trying to tell y'all, well, the story is over, so the hero must die. Street Doctor, I see you came off of mute. What you got to add to the conversation?
No, I was just having technical difficulties over here, so I got my shit right now. We good.
Oh, okay. What's up with you, King? We having a conversation about being a hero, man. We've been talking about it all week, and to be honest, when the conversation first came up, I kind of pushed back on the black man being a hero, right? Because I kind of see like the benefit of being a villain, right? At sometimes. And so what the conversation really graduated to is really understanding what it means to be a hero. And what I said today, my understanding of being a hero is not so much of being a rabbit and being a pushover, is being a monster, but being the ability to control a monster and using the power of the monster in the role of this responsibility that we're talking about now. Because without that, you don't get cities. You don't get bridges. You know what I'm saying? If men don't have that monster in us and the ability to tame the monster and use that power in an enterprising way, then I don't think you get the great inventions that you get today. So my understanding,
you have something they call a Panama Canal.
Right.
I heard of it.
Now, do you all know what the Panama Canal is? The importance of the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
It's short.
There is almost it basically dictates pretty much half of all major trade.
Correct.
In this particular this part of the hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere.
It
provides the avenue of trade from the eastern part of the world. It's a relatively narrow way in which all major trade comes into this part of the hemisphere. It is, from a geological, logistical standpoint, it is the most important thoroughfare in this particular part of the world.
So
you don't have the commerce in this country that you have without the Panama Canal.
So let's break it down.
Lots of black men, lots of ADOS men, lots of black Panamanian men, black Central American men. And I'm emphasizing black because the other men, the white men, could not do it. Even the indigenous men could not do it. The conditions of that particular part of the earth in Panama to build that canal was wiping the level of human sacrifice that was necessary to build that Panama Canal, it was unique and specific to men from Africa, men of African heritage. Specific and unique.
So
Now we don't ever talk about it.
I don't go as human.
Nobody ever talks about it.
right.
That shit was
Nobody
built
ever
by
talks
God.
about it.
Man. That's why I was. That's
But-
why
but-
no regular white
but
man
the
couldn't
whole
build it. Hold on, man. Hold on, man.
American,
Ain't no white man could build it because it was built by gods, man. We all gods. You understand me? Of course, we can do the impossible. You feel what I'm saying? We ain't human. You understand that part though?
So Street Doctor Black
And
Uru,
and
Black-
when I don't mean to be like you feel what I'm saying on no disrespectful. I mean in all respect. You feel what I'm saying? But we gods, bro. Like we ain't humans, bro. That's why we can do the impossible. That's why it was light work for us. That's why no other genre could have did it. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's simple. To me though, that's my opinion though. That ain't no, that's my opinion.
so just so you know, Street Doctor, Black Uru is an elder, and he's a OG, so we give him elder privilege on the platform.
All right, say less. Say
Correct.
less.
no, brother, speak your piece. But
No, do your thing.
understand.
Do your thing.
No, I mean, with all due respect, look, I'm not gonna.
That's why I say
question.
respectfully though. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's just my
No,
opinion.
I'm not disrespecting anything you said or your perception of because I don't know what you mean in terms of God. All I know is a lot of gods died building that canal. A lot of sacrifice went into building that canal. And the point I'm emphasizing is there were a lot of heroes down there. A lot of heroes down there. And a lot of them didn't come out of there. And a lot of us benefit and trade off of the sacrifice and the investments of those quote heroes. Now, so when we talk about a hero and whether or not a black man should be a hero and how we should view that, and there's so many black men throughout all of history, but certainly the last 400 years that have made these incredible sacrifices that have gotten us to this point. And so to like 200, 300, 400 years, 100 years later to debate the merits of it, of what they did, or whether you should follow your particular inclination to be the hero, so to speak, it seems very cosmically convenient to me. Because, our convenience is a product of a whole lot of other people being inconvenient.
Correct. Correct. That's a fact.
But it gives you an excuse to not do anything too. It's conveniently an excuse for us not to perform, right? That's another side of that coin. That's a convenient
exactly. Well, if you recall, I asked Hot Sauce, was it yesterday or whatever? What's the price of us being cowards? Now it changed into some indifference or whatever, and I agree with that because maybe it's not cowardice, maybe it is indifference. But what's the price of us not being what our ancestors were?
No,
what's the price of that?
Society stops. That was the point of today. That with these young men, that's why people champion Jordan Peterson. He cried when he brought it up because he understands the ramifications. You don't get the next Panama Canal doesn't get built. That's the short of it, basically.
Yeah. No, I don't have.
It doesn't get built. Because what motivate? Or the next Sears Tower would motivate? Because a lot of men died building these skyscrapers. What nothing motivates you to go do that without a wife and a child at home depending on you for food and life. They're going to die if I don't climb up this 50-story building. That's the only reason why I'm doing it. I'm not scared because literally they're going to die. I do this and they get food and warmth. That's what this is all about. And women are not programmed that way. And when you take that
Like
away,
I say, women want to live, men want a reason to live.
excellent.
That's the fundamental difference.
Excellent.
That's what that means. Yeah.
And taking away that reason in order to get rid of masculinity, you stop society from building. Another thing he said that was powerful today was that how we get the hero is that women created the hero, and they call it toxically masculine. Women created the hero because the way women select men. He said what makes us different from the chimpanzee is the chimpanzee will mate with any chimp. The difference with the human is she decides who she's going to mate with, right? And how does she make that decision? She picks the most dominant male. That's why we have a fixation on being king and all this shit, right? Because the women pick the most dominant. He said, well, think about it throughout evolution. Throughout evolution, she's always, so the dominance has always kept going because she's always picking the most dominant. Men compete. That's how we got to the level of masculinity, or what they call toxic masculinity now, by the women's natural selection. That's what bred the heroic behavior of
but
men.
the question is, let me ask the question though, because I don't know if in between birth control and feminism and gynocentrism, I don't know if the most natural mate selection has been occurring.
Oh shit! I'm not talking about right now.
I think it's been grossly perverted for generations.
Yeah, I'm not talking about right now. Yeah,
because look, if you have abortion, then you have people making decisions that they would not make if there were no abortion. So I don't know, in a world in which, you know, black women can kill 25 or whatever 30 million children, that's a natural mate selection process. I don't think it is.
No fault divorce. Yeah,
In a world in which, when a woman gets pregnant and has to actually have that child, that the decision making process, very different.
Correct.
Very different.
You blew that up. But that's what's happening now, to where there's no incentive, right? There's no incentive because that math is broke.
So there's nothing natural about what's going on now.
No.
It's all convenient, and it's all, you know, it's all whatever works in the particular circumstances that female is in at that point in time. If I'm in, quote, for example, college or grad school, my decision making is different than 10 years later, where I ain't got no man or no more prospects, and now I'm desperate to have a child. So none of that's really natural. That's not how we live in the actual wild, so to speak. All this shit is artificial.
That speaks to a lot of how we got here.
Yeah,
by
it speaks to exactly how we got here.
But that's why you start with feminism first, right? Because if they change the way they select men, then that's how you change it. Just like Nameless talks about how we change the behavior of women, we have to change the men behavior. So if you change the way the women behaved, they didn't seek out to change men. They changed the way women behaved, and that changed the men. That's how you got a more docile.
Where in any human society did you have most of the majority of women who could fuck for fun? Show me what society in which that happened.
And they were successful.
No, I'm saying show me it at any point in history where the majority of female. Now, I'm not talking about whether you had some, you know, high classes of whatever, and even then it was precarious, because even then you still had the specter of pregnancy. But show me where the majority of females in any human society could fuck for fun.
Sex was illegal. Sex without marriage was illegal.
Beyond legal, though. You couldn't fuck for fun because you would somebody was gonna get pregnant.
Right. And you couldn't afford it. Most people
and the fun is immediately over at that point.
Right. It was too much responsibility associated with having sex. Even in the color
purple. That's why people got married earlier and settled earlier, whatever, because sex, especially for females, was never supposed to be about just for fun. Right now, it's Friday right now. You got bitches all over the country on birth control, gonna be fucking for fun tonight, right?
This is
Ain't
what
got nothing to do with any sort of real kind of commitment, marriage or any of that. No, right now as we talking, all over the country, bitches getting ready to go somewhere and fuck for fun. All over the country. That is not a natural. That's not a natural thing.
it's not. It was a commodity. Even in the color purple, Seeley's virginity and virtue, what we talked about today, slaying the dragon, it was a commodity. We bargained. He got something in exchange for marrying a virgin daughter. It was the only thing you had. If you didn't have anything during that time, when a lot of people had nothing, your virginity was something that you had that was valuable. Like there was locks and keys associated with it. They treated it like a treasure because it could get you out of this poor environment. You grew up poor, but if you stay virtuous, you could marry a bona fide man, and it could benefit the family. Your marriage could benefit. This is back to the rights and responsibility and what being a hero is. And altruism. You stay a virgin, marry a bona fide man, it benefits you, your children, and the greater good of the family. That's all lost with hoes going out on the weekend fucking. That's all lost. The value is lost. And they're fighting to say it's not valuable. Oh, you're weak because you don't want a woman with kids or having sex. But they are losing the value and the commodity that virginity and virtue has. It's a commodity.
But when you create a society in which women actually expect to be able to fuck for fun, that's what you end up with. Because your typical female in this environment is going to be fertile in the early part of her teen years. So, but yet at the same time, we're saying she shouldn't even think about even getting married into her middle or latter part of her 20s at the earliest. So for basically a 10-year period or more, we're saying that even though she should be fucking, or we promote her fucking, concurrent with that, we're saying you definitely should not get married. Well, I mean, that's basically a setup for, at some point, you're right. Some woman coming to you later with somebody else's child. There's a guarantee of that.
And remember the lady who didn't pick the Navy scientist? She had an opportunity to forego this new perversion, to actually get married.
But she was on the fuck a lot. She was on the fuck a lot agenda. And she, from her perspective, she was like, I ain't ready to get off of this fuck a lot agenda. I mean, hopefully I can catch up with him, about 8 years from now.
Well, like you said, she wasn't willing to give
probably up. What she's thinking.
What you said earlier, she's not willing to give up her opportunity. You guys got to ride the cock carousel. I'm not giving up my ride. This is the rights and responsibility. She's not willing to be responsible for the other person's rights.
And that's why, if you recall when we were talking about that, that's why my biggest criticism was for the old hoes. And the reason why my biggest criticism for the old hoes is y'all got all y'all dick. Y'all got slutted out by Sean Kemp and all them dudes, in the late 90s and early 2000s.
And now you want these.
Y'all got bottomed out by Snoop Dogg and all them guys back in the day. And now you gonna come in and swoop down later and tell your daughters and these young women, don't do what I do. Bitch, shut up.
That you have to be the hero. Think about it, because they're saying the same thing to the
no
men.
Credibility.
Right. They're saying the same thing to the women, to the men. You have to be the hero. She's saying, I don't want to be the hero. And guess what the men are saying? I don't want to be the hero. The men are saying, I'm getting my passport and I don't want to be the hero. I don't want to save black women. And black women
I don't want to clean this shit up. I don't want to clean this shit up.
She's saying the same thing. I don't want to be the hero. I heard some black women say the other day, and it struck me, just a little side note. Stacey Abrams echoed it too, where she said, I don't want to be called a strong black woman, or don't call me strong and independent. And it really resonated with me, right? And it speaks to this responsibility, this community aspect. And they were saying,
here's my response to Stacey Abrams. Bitch, if you not gonna be the strong black woman, what in the fuck am I doing making you the governor of fucking Georgia? Bitch, your ass better be Hercules if you're gonna be governor of fucking Georgia. And if you can't be this mythical strong black woman, then get the fuck out of the way and put a man in that spot.
She wants the ability to
You ain't
fail.
gonna be, you're not gonna be a governor, you're not gonna be a fucking president or prime minister or a king or any of that shit and not be strong.
Think about it. Before you get
How
the
the
job,
fuck am I gonna put you? Why would I put you in a position
right?
of that level and your bitch ass don't be strong?
This is what she
Why
said
would I
before.
put you there?
This is what she said before she get the
Bitch,
job.
you better be some fucking Asgardian or some shit. You want to be governor of Georgia. Why should I not expect your ass to be fucking strong? And if you weren't gonna be strong, then you need to be a feminine woman and get behind some man and support him being fucking governor. But since you didn't do that, and since you want that job, bitch, you better be strong. You asked to be strong when you took that job. So hey, you better be strong. You spent your whole goddamn life telling the world to make you strong so you can be fucking governor of Georgia, the old South.
But
Bitch, you better be strong.
Don't want. Think about this. That's very true. They created this moniker. They benefited from it. But when she finally's there and she's at the big show, she doesn't want the responsibility. That's
Why
what
in
today
the
has been
fuck would I
about.
want you to be governor of anything and you not be strong?
And-
Why?
But you benefited from it, like you just said. You benefited from this moniker from your whole life, through your college. This is how you got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you're here.
So,
You want to
so
remind
now
us.
it's time for you to be strong, bitch. Now it's time for you to be strong. You wanted it. You got it. You asked for the job. Now it's time for your ass to be strong.
They don't want
And
the
if you're not going to be strong, why in the hell should anybody vote for you? To be governor of fucking Georgia, the South. Why would I want some weak motherfucking Negro, male or female, in that job? Why?
Because look, this is what's happened after MLK and Malcolm X. Any black leader that we get is want you to know, I'm not your hero. I'm not your Jesus. So don't look at me as that strong person, because I'm not going to fall on the sword. I'm not going to represent you. I'm not your hero. I'm not. You're the civic.
Well, I'm disgusted by that.
That's what I hear.
So you want a job of being responsible for millions of people, but at the same time you want to say, I'm not strong. I don't want to be strong.
Yep.
Why in the fuck would I put you in that job? Why would I put you in that job?
We're redefining heroism. We're redefining the heroine. And
why would I make you governor of fucking Georgia if you telling me you don't intend to be strong, or you don't want to be strong? You want to be dainty or whatever. What that says to me is, bitch, you never should have tried to get that job. You should have left that to a man. You cannot have it both ways. You can't be begging for men jobs and not doing the jobs as a fucking man is expecting them to do it.
But that's
if you are a governor, if you are a fucking governor of any state in this country, Georgia or otherwise, that means, guess what, motherfucker? You on the back phone, which means if there's a 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock fucking call, you got to respond to that motherfucker. That ain't no 9 to 5 gig. You're responsible for millions of people.
No, wait. I don't think people really. This is the thing about what they're doing as redefining these positions and saying masculinity is toxic, that you won't get that type of leader anymore. That's her goal and point of saying it before she even takes office, that the new leadership will be a different style of leadership, right? When women are in leadership, it will be a different style entirely of leadership. That's the understanding.
See, and that's where men fucked up. That's where white men fucked up in particular. because they were so concerned about black men really doing anything that they gave these bitches power that they never really should have had.
It's gonna matter.
Because men know it actually, men know shit actually have to be done. Most women don't know shit have to be done. Look around you right now, wherever you are, you and the other gentleman or anybody else. Look at what, if you're outside, inside, in your home, outside, whatever. Look around you. Look at the things around you. Look at the automobiles. Look at the houses, the plumbing, the skyscrapers. All of that shit was done by men. All of it was done by men. Women collectively have no real clue what that's about. It's not an insult to them. They just don't do it. They don't do it.
But even, and look at going back to the Panama Canal, you got to unpack it further. Done by husbands, because you don't get it done by men without families. This is the thing that we got to go to that level, because that's what inspires the type of creation for everyone. Because when you're creating a power grid that everyone would benefit from, why would you do that? I don't see women doing that. I think women would have stopped.
And even if you die, you left insurance, money, whatever. You know, a lot of men did stuff on the prospects of the possibility of them dying and leaving something to their family. A lot of men in all manner of situations. Coal miners, like you say, power grid, nuclear power plants, you know, highway construction. You know, a lot of men did things that, you know, that were dangerous, you know, electric lines and all that were dangerous. And they had at least the comfort that if something happened to them while they were doing their work, that presumably whatever sort of combination of insurance or benefits or whatever, their family would be taken care of.
And there was this great appreciation from the family. It goes back to the big piece of chicken. I love that joke by Chris Rock. You ate the big piece of chicken. You touched the big piece of chicken, because it was.
But understand that big piece of chicken analogy was a huge slap in the face to black men, especially a black man who actually worked for a living. That was a huge slap in the face to black men. In no other community, listen to me, in no other community do you have a conversation about the importance of the breadwinner eating well.
Right.
That don't happen in any other. Where does that happen in any? Show me the community where it happens about whether or not the man should get his maximum nourishment.
The roles,
where?
The roles have been, where these perverse roles reversals exist. That's why the joke is funny, because our households have been perverted, right? That's why the joke is funny, and people are laughing at us, not with us. People
and they should laugh at us. The fact that we're having such an inane debate, they should laugh at us. We deserve the laughter.
This is still a thing, though. We still have these issues in black households today about the big piece of chicken. It's a relevant joke today. He could tell that joke today and get laughs.
You don't have that problem when you don't marry one of them.
No, I don't have that problem.
I look at my younger relatives and they got, Lupe or whatever. That don't seem to be an issue with them.
Yeah, man.
That don't seem to be an issue with Maria and them.
Well, it really, this responsibility and rights thing, this mathematical equation, this two-sided coin, it's really some understanding that could benefit us as black people. Like what I said earlier to his saying, your rights are my responsibility. It breaks down to the parental father rights, and the father's rights I have a right to my child, right? But it's the mother's responsibility. This is what happened with 50 Cent and Marquise. 50 Cent had a right. Even Kanye West didn't know where his children were. He was very upset as a billionaire. He understood I have a right. But what he realized to understand is his right, his parental right stopped with Kim's responsibility. The same thing happened with Marquise. If his ex-wife, was not going to be responsible for his rights, then his rights cease to exist. And this is where society, this was happening with black men and black women, right? Because we don't understand each other's rights or each other's responsibility. For me to be a father, the black woman has to understand that you are responsible. She keeps saying, well, you don't show up and you don't do this. And she don't get it when we're saying to her, because I haven't heard it articulated like this. Yes, I have a right to my son, but my rights are predicated on your responsibility for those rights. You have to empower those rights. The same way freedom of speech, that when the police does not honor our rights cease to exist. I have a right when you pull me over to all of these things. And he know I know the law, and he know the law, right? But it's his responsibility to make sure that my rights are protected, and when he pulls me over, my rights are not violated. And if he fails in that relationship, then that's how society breaks down. And if the black woman fails, or any woman for that matter, if a mother fails, an ex-wife fails in that relationship, then the child will suffer. If she doesn't understand the mathematics behind, black or white, if she doesn't understand the mathematics behind her responsibility to the father's parental rights, that they don't magically.
Well, in the case of Marquise, that woman should not have had Marquise. Like I say, 50 should have sent that boy to military school or something like that, boarding school or whatever in Switzerland or some shit like that. And that boy was supposed to be raised up as an aristocrat. Now, I don't know if he attempted to do that and failed.
The truth is coming out now. Marquise said, we were getting $25,000 a month. And 50 Cent said, I took them to child support. He said, typically men.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is, that woman should not have had that boy. That boy was supposed to be in a military school somewhere. That should have been, the best way to deal with that situation is to get the boy, pay that bitch off, get that boy and raise him up right to be an aristocrat. Now, I don't know if 50 attempted to do that and failed, or or he just was so caught up in being 50 Cent during that time. That could be a part of it too. I don't know.
I believe he tried, and I believe he suffered from his own demons, because he really did go to jail for 3 to 9. He really was shot 9 times. She really could bring up in court that he was a drug dealer and a gangbanger, and it was proof of that. So I believe when he tried to get full custody, he was unsuccessful because of his actual real life.
And if that's true, if that is true, then I empathize with him, and I have to presume that he did the best he could, if that's true. However, and I'm not speaking about him specifically, but I do think there's a common thing amongst many of us, and those, including those of us who achieve a certain level of affluence, where we're too considerate of the relationship between the mother and the child. And in other groups of people, they sever the child from the tit of the mother much more early,
especially with male children.
And that's why. Exactly. And that's why, like you say, you'll have a 10-year-old, 8, 9, 10-year-old being sent off to military school, shit like that, because they know it's more important for that child to get a particular kind of education to become a leader, and to be able to actually compete in this world, and not that he have some emotional connection or whatever to some female. Again, I don't know what 50 wanted or whatever, but I'm just speaking, kind of prospectively, from black men in general, and again, especially those of us who do manage to achieve a certain level of affluence and power, or potential power. In most cases, especially if it's a son, you're better off paying that woman off to get that child, and then getting that child the proper aristocratic education.
If she doesn't understand the mathematics that we presented today about your rights being her responsibility, I absolutely agree. Right. And if you had that ability, and unfortunately, what the truth is, like, the system is set up to where most men are not going to be able to do that, Black Uru Elder, because look at Kanye West as a billionaire. 50 Cent at the time had $100 million. He was unsuccessful. Kanye West as a billionaire.
But Kanye and her are different, though, in this regard.
I'm-
Because you're dealing with the Kardashians.
True.
Kardashians have much more power, much more influence. They're white or whitish or whatever the fuck it is. So they were going to be, and there were 4 children, not 1, 4 children. So that's a much tougher circumstance for Kanye
Is it
than
4 or 5?
the
I don't think-
situation.
Is it 4 or 5? I don't think people realize how many kids they are, because I brought this up when we first started talking about this, that Kim didn't bring those last kids to term herself, that they had a surrogate. Is it 4 or 5? They have a lot of kids.
Well, I know they have a minimum of 4. I'll say that because, like I said,
at least 4. I don't think people know.
So I think Kanye had a more difficult situation than 50 had, or he has a more difficult situation than 50 has for those reasons. And I think Kanye has done, or probably will do, and spare no expense or whatever to him to try to secure the interests of his children. But I think the circumstances are not don't favor him. They don't.
No, not with the family structure, and
Yeah.
not with the lack of understanding of the mother's responsibility.
You're in Los Angeles. Their father was Robert Kardashian.
Yeah.
They are deeply rooted in that era. That's a lot to try to fight through. That's a lot, a whole lot.
And just being in California, just the way the laws are written with child custody in California is very different than if he would have been married in a red state. Now, if he was in Texas or some state like that, a conservative state, it would be very different. But the fact that you mentioned California, I don't think people will understand how important that is. California and New York have very unique laws.
Everything is to the benefit of the women.
Yeah.
To the most. Everything. It's an incredible. And I feel for Kanye. Now, people can say, well, why did you get with her to begin with? Why you have all kids with her? That's, it'd be interesting. I don't know. Have you ever heard anybody ask him about why he got with Kim and why he had so many children with him? Because I've never heard him speak about that.
So
have you?
I saw a couple episodes. I used to watch the Kardashians, and he appeared on the Kardashian show before they got married. Okay. So he said that he always had a crush on her since he had money, and that the family, he would always come around the family. He was a hang around because he always had a crush on Kim, even when he was with Amber Rose. So he said he never would have been with Amber Rose if Kim would have gave him the time of day. But Kim wouldn't date him.
So did they explain why Kim eventually relented to being with him?
So what I presented when we talked about, the when women should have children, and I talked about, geriatric pregnancy, right? And I said it was an episode I was watching where Kim went to the OBGYN with her sister, Courtney, and the doctor she wanted to have a baby with the basketball player that she keep going back and forth with. And the doctor and Kim was laughing at her, teasing her in the doctor's appointment. The doctor, doctors don't appreciate that shit. Even though it's a TV show and you're making good TV, I'm a real doctor. So the doctor stopped Kim and start examining Kim like, fuck that. Now it's your doctor appointment. How old are you? And Kim was like, in the superstar shit, like, I'm not about to tell you how old I am on TV. And he said, okay, he broke it down to her like a doctor. He said, okay, she's this age. You're older, If you don't have a child by this age, your child's gonna come out possibly with this type of problem. You can have mental illness, mental retardation, blah, 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 physical and all this, because you're going to be prone for geriatric pregnancy. Her mouth dropped. And then, like, weeks later, Kanye West was proposing to her in the San Francisco stadium. So it was like she always had Kanye. And women do this. We talk about the monkey branch and how women keep these men, right, who they know they could marry or make if they need to do this. So Kanye was that guy. I've seen my mama do. I've seen women do this. He was that guy, and he put himself in that position. So after she had that meeting, she was like, I'll marry you. And then we saw this whole thing come about, and they planned the whole, and they were in control from the beginning. The proposal in the baseball stadium, that was a photo op. All of this, because he was so willing and so begging to be part of it, they were able to steer the shit from the whole thing. Like, okay, you're going to marry him. We're going to be able to get him to do what we want him to do because he been around. So marry him, have the babies, and then we're going to manipulate him in this type of way. And it almost drove him crazy. It almost drove him crazy because he wanted to stay. He didn't understand what was happening to him, that he was being used the whole time. I don't know if he ever believed that she loved him. I don't know if he could believe that, but he definitely loved her. But this was all calculated for her. After that doctor's appointment, she knew she had to have children. She tried to be married to 2 other men. She knew this marriage wouldn't fail because, like my mother told me one time, she knew that he loved her more than she loved him. So she knew the marriage would end when she wanted it to end. She knew that going in. That wasn't true with her other 2 marriages. She wasn't going to do that again. The other 2 men, she liked them. She loved them. The Reggie dude broke up with her. The basketball player broke up with her. Didn't see value in her. That shit crushed her. My mom never went through that again. I saw my mom go through that. And she said, and she taught this, like, my next time, I'm not going to pick a man that I love. I'm going to pick a man that loved me more than I love him. So it's unfortunate, man, the way it went down. But
So, but then why did they have so many children?
well, I think once he got into it, I think a lot of us believe the old saying that we talked about yesterday, you could turn a hoe to a housewife. I think he thought that if he procreated with her, had a certain type of tantric sex with her, that he would be able to cultivate a wife's spirit within her. Because he keeps saying she's a Christian, and the father raised her a Christian. So he was trying to unlock certain doorways set up by the dad with this type of family, like surrounding her with the new circumference of people, individuals, the children and me, and not the mother and the sister. So if we got 4 or 5 kids, then now this is a different circle, separate from the Kardashian circle. So I think he was trying to do his own magic. Still.
But why does she have so many children?
I think she was along for the ride. She bought into it. He's a very charismatic person, like, and then he got the success. He accomplished the things. Like when I gave my presentation today on being heroic, Elder, I don't know if you caught it, but one of the things in the definition that stood out to me is the fact that being a hero is enterprising. It's in the definition more than once. And it made me think about Tony Stark's. It made me think about Batman, and all of my favorite superheroes were extremely enterprising. That's never talked about much, right? You talk about the flying and the spider webs and all the different shit, but the fact that each of the men were extremely enterprising, and that's actually part of being a hero. And if I look at my heroes, there's no successful hero that wasn't enterprising. All the dumb heroes, the failures, were not enterprising, but any successful hero was extremely enterprising. And I was like, damn, why is that never highlighted when we promote heroism to boys? Why is the enterprising aspect left out? So I think the fact that he was so enterprising and he was successful in everything he built and tried, like not everything, but that he could manifest his mental what was in his mind, he could create and turn it. Like when I had my garden, I saw my wife and I created my own business. when I created things and I moved into that aspect of my life where I wanted to create, I started seeing the people around me, how they would look at you at your creation. When other women would come in my garden, they just looked at me differently. Because a lot of men try to grow shit and don't, like, wow, your garden has character. Oh, wow. And wow, this type of reaction. I'm like, shit, this what? And I'm like, God damn, I didn't know bitches would react. I would have planted some tomatoes a long time ago. But it's the fact that you're able to produce and create something. And I think she got an infatuation. I don't think she ever loved him, right? And I seen that too with my mother and women, to where they can be in a place for an extended period of time and be infatuated with a man or a situation, but actually not be in love with him. And then that when you have failure, or you fail, and every man will, in that infatuation, that's when the love comes in, right? That's when the bitch stay down, because like when the infatuation wanes because I'm not successful as I used to be, or as an enterprise, the love is what's supposed to keep you here. But women don't work that way.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. Contrasting of being infatuated with the industry of a man versus actually having any real love for the human being himself. Kanye is a very accomplished man, and uniquely accomplished man. He's not really, he's a quote, an American original, in that, there's no real prior Kanye.
No, I get
there's
it.
no
That's
prior,
why he brings up Disney. That's why he brings up Disney and those people. People think he's being crazy when he references those people, but you just made an excellent point. When he says Disney, that's what he means. There's no other me. I'm just black, so you don't call me the Disney, right? But I am him.
He's exactly right. He's very much an original, and so you can see how some woman might become, like you say, infatuated with that, particularly moved by some parts of it. Being everywhere he goes, he's Kanye. Everywhere he goes, Kanye or Ye or what, I mean, everywhere he goes, it's a thing, right? So I'm sure part of it was on her end, and even having the children was her way of having the children is a way of being able to leave him, but him never leave her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I've been in that situation. I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was hard to learn. Like men have we think women have children because they love us. Women have children for a lot of different reasons, right? And that's a hard thing to, when you grow up as an adult, to learn, right? Because we think women have a mind like I have a mind, right? I wouldn't go through all that pain and give birth to a child and breastfeed them if I didn't love the child and didn't love the man. But women do it every day. Even in that story with
they're designed to do that though. That's the purpose to be here. So I mean, I don't at all assign anything odd or unique to a woman wanting to or having a child, because if she don't do that, then what the hell is she here for?
Yeah, okay, so you say it's like taking a shit, and that's what we miss. Men don't get.
I mean, literally, you have milk bearing breasts, you have load bearing hips, you have a cervix. Everything is designed. Yeah, I mean, everything.
It would be amazing if I had a baby. I get it. That's a hell of a point. It would be amazing if I had a baby, but for a woman to have a baby, it's not amazing. It's what they do.
Your whole goddamn physiology is designed for you to have a child. So there's nothing, I mean, people talk about the pain of childbirth. That's bullshit. First of all, If you
Right.
have 9 children,
Right.
that means that 9 days or maybe more out of, what, 10,000 or whatever fucking days of your life or whatever that is, you go through some particular stress, in terms of the actual birthing process. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from birthing a child, but that, bitch, why else are you here?
Right. And
You
who
ain't
got
here to
9
build no
babies
roads. You ain't here to build no houses.
anymore?
You ain't here to slay no dragons or any of that shit. That's the whole reason why you here.
Hey,
The purpose
hey,
of a man is to be great. The purpose of a woman is to bring more great men into the world.
the kitchen in the bedroom. The kitchen in the bedroom.
Right. And that's not an insult. I'm not saying that to be an insult to her. But damn, if you can't have a child and you're a female, I don't know why you're here. Real talk.
It made me think about that story that the basketball player with I think his name is Steven Jackson. I don't know, but he got the podcast and he talked about the woman who he didn't marry on the day of his marriage and how he cried.
Right.
And when he told the story, he almost cried. And he said he had been with the woman 2 years and they had a child and they were at the ceremony and she still hadn't signed the prenup. And he had been asking her for 6 months and it came down to whether she would get married or not. And she said no. She refused to sign the prenup and he was in the room crying. And he said he couldn't believe that she had the baby and went through all of this and it was all about the money and she didn't love him. And when it came down to it, she would not marry him if she wasn't going to get paid. Like she wouldn't do it for the love and it fucked him up. And when he told the story, it broke me down because I remember having that same, being a young man and having that same understanding of, wait, mama, she had my baby. Like, a woman like, and my mama looking at me like, oh, okay, you having this, you about to grow up in this moment because he went through that understanding in that moment. And it was hard to hear the story because I know that pain. He was in tears in front of his best friends. He was broken.
That's a weird story though, because I mean, how you get to the point in which, I mean, don't you have at some point a cutoff date?
So he gave her a pass.
We got a week or whatever.
He gave her a pass. The story was a cold story. She played him close. I think he got sick or something came up. You know, the bitches be coming up with some shit. Oh, I gotta go here and go there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, he gave her a pass. And 2 weeks came, and then it came down to the actual wedding day. 5 minutes before the wedding. And his groomsmen, and I believe what the beautiful thing about that story is it's the benefit and the power of the Black manosphere is that if he didn't have those brothers, he would have gave in.
But here's the thing, Perfect. She was an idiot. She should have signed that document.
Oh,
this is why she should have signed it.
But
this is why she should have signed that document. Most judges would have put aside that prenup. They would have said that she signed that document under duress.
Because she signed on the day of the marriage, right?
Yes. So if she was smart, she would have signed that document and went through with the marriage, held on for a few months or so, feigned whatever kind of bullshit, and then said, I signed it under duress or whatever kind of bullshit. She was an idiot.
She didn't think about future Homer.
She was so hell-bent on getting what she wanted to get that she didn't realize that, or maybe she didn't get some, outside counsel, because any decent attorney would have told her, you know what, you can sign that document. It ain't going to hold up in the court.
Well, when it comes down to it, she didn't love him.
A decent attorney would have said, wait until a minute before you fucking go down the aisle and sign the document.
But
I promise you, if that woman had signed that document before she went down that aisle, no judge would have upheld that agreement. Not one.
This is the thing. It was the principle. They are ruthless. This is what I say a lot of times, and what the stuff that we teach, they already are exhibiting this behavior. It was the principle for her.
She played herself. She played herself. But if she was really smart, she would have waited till the last possible instance and signed that document.
No, she
And she would
wasn't.
have gotten everything she wanted to get and could have stayed married to him 5 years. Hell, she had fucked him and had his kid anyway. So it wasn't like she wasn't used to being with him. She would got with him, wait until he signed his biggest contract or whatever, and she'd have made out like a bandit and would have gotten her full 50% or whatever, because the judge would have said, well, this just is unconscionable. You made this woman sign this agreement a minute before she walked down the aisle. This is not a valid contract. It's not a valid prenup.
She
She was
wanted.
an idiot.
She wanted full simp. It was the principle.
Yeah.
One of her girls. She wanted him to bow one more time and say, "Look at y'all. Look at what he. This pussy is so good." She wanted full simp. It was she forego all of that. She fucked up her whole future and the child's future. That child's in the same position as Marquise. That child one day would be like, "Oh, daddy, you didn't do this." Well, your mama wasn't shit, but she could have been my wife, and if she would have been divorced, and you would be in a different situation because your mother would be my ex-wife. That's what Marquise is missing. His mother is not 50 Cent's ex-wife, and that's why she don't have a $1 million lifestyle. But she wanted full simp. Marquise's mother wanted full simp. She wanted 50 Cent to completely capitulate and bend over and give her up all the ass. And he said, "No, I'm already giving you $25,000 a month," but it wasn't enough. And she showed that after he didn't do what she wanted, she attacked him and tried to tear down his character, talk about him and his enemies and everything, and show the fact I never really cared about you. I never really loved you. And that's why I pushed it so far. Anybody who cared and had any sense wouldn't have pushed it so far. But I never really cared. And that's why I did what I did with your son.
Well,
never,
that's the great part about black women is sometimes they are so egotistical that they play themselves. See, a white woman would have made that shit totally happen for herself.
they play zone. They play
They
zone.
would- they play that prevent defense.
Nah, both of them bitches hit blitz. Both of them bitches
Yeah,
said blitz.
a white woman would have totally made that shit work for her. Asian chick totally make that shit work for her. But black women, and maybe it is because of that contempt towards even just black men even being men. See, other women, they don't discard the fact that you are a man. They can hate you, they can want to take advantage of you, take from you, but they don't discard the notion of you being a man. Black women discard the notion, the concept of a black man being a man. And so, and when you don't have a regard for a man being a man, then you'll do the dumbest kinds of things. You'll do this nigga, I'm going, like you say, I'm going to bend him to my will. No, white woman, why am I going to bend him to his will? I'm trying to get paid. And this is how I get paid.
What do you really want?
That's the difference between a white woman and a black woman. Now, it ain't enough. For a black woman, it ain't just enough to get paid. I'm going to brutalize this motherfucker in the process.
Going back to the Happy Meal getting thrown down. He brought a Happy Meal over, right? Why she couldn't just take the Happy Meal in the house and split the Happy Meal up? And
because she had to brutalize him. She had to brutalize him.
Exactly.
That's why. It wasn't enough
to have
food. For her to, she had to brutalize him.
If the food was the goal, she had food in her hand.
How does it help any of those children to throw the food on the ground?
It wasn't the goal.
How?
It wasn't the goal.
Right.
That's why she was on the phone. That nigga needed to bring food for everybody while everybody could see. And that nigga had to marry me without me signing the prenup so everybody could see. And 50 Cent needed to do what I needed 50 Cent to do, or I'm going to be hell on him. I'm going to ruin his son. And 50 Cent, you should have listened to me and did what the fuck I told you, and you would have your son. That's how she feels.
The problem with 50 Cent was he was 50 Cent. The problem with 50 Cent was, because I remember that time. And I remember pretty much all the women in America wanted to fuck 50 Cent.
Right.
So it wasn't even about the money. It was about him being 50 Cent. It was about him being this muscular, you know what I'm saying? It was about the image of what he was. It wasn't even just him being rich and successful. It was about him being 50 cents. See, I remember that time. I'm sure you do too. I remember when 50 Cent, because I never thought much about 50 Cent as a rapper. I thought the power of 50 Cent was and still is his image,
Right.
that he represents a sort of physical archetype that men and women are attracted to
And
it
want to
for
be.
different reasons, obviously.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
And
and
he
I
really
think
is it.
what she was dealing with was him being on the cover of Rolling Stone, being on the cover of Time magazine, all that. I think that was a part of it. And I think she lamented not being able to enjoy that part of about what 50 cents was.
And
Not
her
just the
knowing
money, the
and
fame.
her knowing that it was a character that he had
Yes.
created,
Yes.
that the world
Yes.
had fell in
Well,
love.
no, to be fair to him, that is at least some part of what he was. It certainly wasn't all of what
No,
he
it's
was,
not a put down.
you
He
know.
created.
Yeah.
She was upset that she was there, and she might even say that she helped. But the fact that his
Yeah.
creation, that his art and his dream became a reality, right? That's
Yeah.
what it was. It was a character that he created and embodied. 50 Cent actually was another street hustler, and he took that person's name and he created this character and persona. That's why the power works. Because what is power? Power is just what he did from the beginning. I can show you a story of a character and the archetype and the plot line because that's what I did with my life. The name of the album
And
was
see,
Get Your Die Trying. I created this.
and see what a lot of women will lament about a man becoming famous ain't just the money. For a lot of women, it's the fame. For a lot of women, it's the red carpet, it's the Oscar invitations, you know, it's the White House correspondence meals and all that shit. For a
And I
lot of
would
these
say,
women, that's more than just the money.
and I would say for black women, it's the enterprise. She resents
Mm-hmm.
his enterprise, and that's why the
Yeah.
hero aspect has been taken away from us. This is what we talk about when they're not attracted to functional black men. That's why Kanye can't be a hero. That they're repulsed by our enterprise, right? The Nino Browns got to be snitched on and put in prison. But in California, all of the white Nino Browns got legal dispensaries now, right? So I don't.
Yes.
It's,
That's an excellent point. Yeah, all the black Nino Browns are in prison or went to prison or were destroyed by the prison industrial complex, and all the white Nino Browns have dispensaries and are making ghastly amounts of money without any
rewarded
risk at all for loose of life and limb. Yeah.
rewarding for their enterprise. Now, not taken away from them, they are very enterprising men, right? They've done great creating brands, creating businesses. Some of them don't make money, so it is very. But we also have the same enterprise, but we're not allowed because our right to that enterprise is those men's responsibility. Right. And when we have the meeting about equity, they don't give a fuck. The same thing happens with black women because for us to have the same right to capital, those black men have to be responsible for our rights. It's the same thing with the police when they pull us over. Right. And it's a power dynamic. Black women are responsible for the black father's rights. And if she doesn't adhere and understand her responsibility, that you have to be the one to make sure I have a right to the son. Right, or else the fucking whole mathematics fall down. But what you were saying earlier is that really got me is they get it. They get it. The white man get it. The black woman get it. They get it. They understand their responsibility. What they're saying is, I'm not going to fulfill my responsibility because I want to keep my power position, and that's how we get here. That's how we get here by not holding up your side of the bargain, white men and black women. That's how we get here, where the society is fucked up. Where certain people, everybody wants rights, but no one is willing to be responsible for the other persons. Like I said earlier, I had the analogy, all these new generation kids are in line at the bank of rights, and everybody's saying the person of color, the woman, the Lucky Charms, everybody is at the door saying, I deserve rights. But no one is willing to make a deposit of responsibility to ensure that the other one has their rights. Everyone is just saying every day on TV is, hey, you owe me rights. I deserve rights. But no one is talking about the other side of the coin, making it a positive responsibility. There's no responsible people in society. That's the one thing that ticks me off about this alternative community. They want so much, but when you see
But
them out in the wild,
responsibility, there's always a cost associated with responsibility, whether it's time, resources, risk, in some cases maybe even dire risk associated. So when you say responsibility, that's not a, I mean, you're using that term somewhat loosely here, but you have to consider what saying responsibility, because like my responsibility, for example, is to defend this particular, hill, right? Well, in that responsibility is me holding an M16 and maybe killing anything that comes to that hill. So when you say responsibility, that's not a small thing.
no, but that's really what it is.
Depending on the circumstance, that responsibility may mean you eating a bullet.
Or the people, everyone doesn't eat. If we lose this hill, or if I lose this hill, someone doesn't eat. That's the whole thing. Like, this hasn't changed. It won't change tomorrow. It won't change 100 years from now. If we don't get this, then people go hungry, and we have more jokers to represent the hungry. That's all it's gonna be. Because if we don't understand that we have to be responsible for other people's rights, then some people will go hungry, and those people won't stay quiet forever. And what we see in society now is the hungry are no longer quiet. That was the Joker. That's why the Joker was a hero. He was a villain to the rich, but to those hungry, broken individuals of Gotham, he was their hero. Finally, someone brave enough, someone willing to sacrifice, kill, and speak to our pain. Kanye West is doing the same thing. Pierce refused to answer him. The same thing happened on the Joker. You will not recognize my pain. Yeah, you want to get mad at me for what I said and for what I did, but you won't acknowledge, as the person who's supposed to do it, and ask the question, well, why were you so angry, Kanye? And for the Joker, why are the people so angry? Why have they championed you? That was my initial pushback on the whole hero thing, because I saw the Joker as the hero, right? And when you look at the definition I pinned, it talk about the civic responsibility of the hero and how civically the people chose the Joker. The Joker was their champion and their hero. They chose the Joker to speak for them because of his heroism.
Well, I mean, the Joker, when you look at it, especially within the paradigm of Batman, considering his background, the Joker is much more representative of the people, or humanity, than the Zion of the founder of God, or one of the founders of Gotham City, that's worth billions of dollars or whatever. Which is the irony of Batman. Batman is ironically one of the least representative human beings there is in many respects. But at the same time, his willingness to risk and sacrifice is what makes him special, even in spite of his privileged background. Meanwhile, Joker comes from the actual depths of humanity.
What I said earlier
is a response, is a somewhat unrelenting response to what it means to be a human being in this modern society.
They created the Joker, and the Joker tries to explain this in many comic books. And many times, like, I don't exist without you, billionaire Bruce Wayne. You're a billionaire, and the way your father ignored the voiceless gave life to me. I exist because of you. You created me.
Mhm.
Your father created me. The way the billionaire Bruce Wayne operated and created this absence for these people, he was not responsible for these individuals' rights. He didn't give a fuck about whether they had a right to food and warmth. They grew hungry and they grew angry, and I gave them a voice. I am their champion. That's why you cannot kill me. You cannot jail me. It will be another Joker as long as these people exist. They will always have a champion until you fix that problem. And that goes back to the Avengers with Thanos. Like, Batman's problem isn't the Joker. Batman's problem, that's why I like Ra's al Ghul. It's like, we got to destroy Gotham, because the problem, Batman, is not the Joker. The problem is Gotham. And way that Gotham treats its people. It's not responsible for their rights. And Batman never deals with that. The Avengers, that's the whole thing that they dealing with in the last movie, right? Because Thanos is trying to solve that problem of the hungry. He got a solution from God. Batman don't have a solution on the hunger.
The only problem, the real problem with Thanos is that, you know, why should any one being, sentient being, decide whether or not the universe is in havoc?
Well, that's a God.
I mean, well, but I'm just saying, why should, you know, other than whatever we might presume God to be, why would someone who is not that being have the right to decide, you know, if X number of billions of people starve, if X number of billions of people die or kill each other in war or whatever, that's for the people of that particular world, that particular solar system, that particular galaxy. That's for them to decide. Why is it your job to decide if X number of billions of people? Because whether the billion of people kill each other, or whether the billion, you know, trillions of people are snapped away, in the end, the effect is the same.
He believes.
So then the question is, who should have the right? Who should have the right to make that decision? Should one sentient being have the right to make that decision? It's not so much whether or not what Thanos describes is or predicts or prognosticates is true, but if X number of people wipe themselves out on whatever planet, or X number of billions of planet, so be it.
But the thing
they have the right to do that.
The great thing is that he is not the creator of the thought. That's what he was created for the purpose. Like Moses was created, like Jesus was created. He just manifesting God's motive, right? God saw something was wrong and wanted it to be fixed, so he created Moses, he created Jesus, he created Thanos to solve the problem. That's why Thanos knew he would be successful. That these individuals who were created
for those of us who believe in Christianity, that's a, you know, from the standpoint of Moses, that's a, you know, acceptable or adaptable disposition. What was the religion, or who was the deity behind Thanos?
He said the Eternals. He said the Eternals gave him the information on the glove, the stones, and what to do and how to do it. This was not his own original thought. They placed it in his mind and gave him the mind and motivation to get it done. And what he found is that as he moved in this direction given to him by the gods, everything.
Did you say the Eternals or the Celestials?
Is it? I thought they called the Eternals. That was the movie, right? What are they called? Celestials? Whatever.
Well, the Celestials created the Eternals. So the Celestials were these giant space gods, if you will.
Yeah, he got it from one of them. He got it from, I can't remember. He said it in the movie though, that he got it from either the Eternals or from the Celestials. And he even goes in one of the movies, Thanos is brought to one of those guys, one of those big guys, remember? And he got to talk.
Those are the Celestials.
Yeah. So he got all of this from his God and his leaders of how to do it, what to do, and that's how he knew he would be successful, because this was their solution to what they saw. They were unhappy. So that was
So then the Avengers are the actual villain.
correct. And they deal with this when they talk about what is our solution to the problem. Thanos is coming to solve a problem.
See, I don't view and maybe, well, it's because above my intellect or whatever to even presume to know, but I don't view a disaster or disasters on a particular planet as being a problem, at least on a cosmic level. I think those disasters are just the mechanism of creating balance. As a human being, I don't want to be destroyed by a hurricane. But if I look at take a planetary view, I have to accept the fact that a hurricane is a regulating force. And there's a reason why it exists within the programming of that particular planet. So if there's too many people, for example, and there's a drought or some sort of starvation or whatever, that's a regulatory activity. Or whether people decide they're going to be at war with each other and kill each other for resources, for scarce resources, that's a regulatory activity. Now, if I'm amongst those who's actually being killed,
no, the same argument could be made though for a man, right? Just going back to like Jesus or Moses or Thanos, like, true, that's a storm, right? So we're saying that the storm or earthquake is divine, right? To keep this balance, right? So in the same way that this same divinity could send a storm or earthquake, it could send a light.
But like Thanos, if Thanos had limited his aspirations to I forget the name of his planet or his moon or whatever where it's from.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. If he limited it to his own people, that's one thing. But to presume that you should have authorization over whether half of the universe lives, that's a whole different kind of disposition.
He was told. He didn't just, this was his function. This is what he was created for. He was told, and the knowledge of how to do so. And then when he set out on the journey, everything presented itself in perfect synchronicity to where that he would be able to accomplish his goal. Certain things happened that shouldn't have happened, and he said this was meant to be. It was meant to be that he found all the stones. And because think about it, it was an impossible task that he find all the stones and then be able to create the actual weapon. So after he found all the stones, he had to create the weapon and then actually be able to use the weapon, right? So it was like he said, it was manifest destiny, right? So I just look at him again as a utility, right? And it makes me think about.
Like I said, my issue with Thanos is that I don't, presume that any singular entity, person or whatever should have authorization over whether half of the universe should live. That's the part of me that where the notion of who and what he is, I find to be quite debatable. And here's the other thing too. All you have done is delayed the inevitable, because you have not changed the very circumstances upon which the very issue that you lament. Okay, so you cut in half all the people or whatever. Well, why won't X number of billions of years later you won't be in the exact same situation?
And that's what happened.
If not sooner, right? Depending on
Right. It wasn't a perfect solution at all. It makes you think who actually designed it. You know what I wanted to say about I'm about to close it down, but you know what I wanted to say real quick
Sure.
about the Panama Canal, because the Panama Canal is fascinating to me. So just for people listening, and I don't know how many people will listen, but the Panama Canal is important. Is an amazing thing because if you think about the map, the globe as you've been taught, and then they teach us that it's wrong, right? So I wonder how the globe really looks. But the way they describe the globe, right? And then some people believe in the flat earth, right? But the way they describe it is before the Panama Canal existed, in order to go from like southeast to the west, you had to go down the bottom of South America, and it was very dangerous, right? And this gets at the Middle Passage or the transatlantic slave trade, because once it was a transatlantic slave trade, I don't really believe that took place because I don't believe they had ships to navigate. I believe we're indigenous, but it speaks to that and why it was created, because how dangerous it was and the lack of goods in this part of the world, because the only way to get from this side to the other side is you had to go down around the tip of South America. And that people forget that because we don't live in that day and time. When if you believe in the globe or if you believe in how they had to travel, the only way to get there was to go around the tip of South America, right? So to circumvent that route, which was a very long and treacherous journey that only a few could make, they built the Panama Canal. There's something also called the Suez Canal in Africa, which is the similar thing happened where they have to sail around the tip of Africa to get to the other side of the world. But then they built the canal through the tip, through Africa, right there where it connects to Middle East. And think about the globe. And now you can cut through there with a boat and you don't have to go around the tip of Africa. Same thing with the Panama Canal. You can now cut through Central America, right? And you didn't, and it cut the journey and it made it a lot less perilous. And because of that, you were forced to go that way, right? And whoever had control of canal, it made them powerful globally. This was a global power thing. And because it was under control of the United States, even though it was in South America, but I think we gave control back to them, but we still quasi run.
Jimmy Carter gave control back, was it 79 or 80 or something like that.
But we still have like puppet governments. We
yeah, I mean, you know how
allegedly in South America and the CIA, we've been doing dirt down there allegedly for a long time. So this is what it meant to have the Panama Canal and have control of the Panama Canal. It's about trade. And when we talk about the situation right now with gas and diesel being a shortage and what's happening in the Ukraine, everything is based on, when you talk about Clinton and how to and inflation and recession, it's all about trade. What Trump did, what did he say when he ran? And he negotiated trade agreements. He got us out of the Paris Agreement. A lot of these things, everything is about trade, right? And that's how he won, because China, it was unfair trade. So the world works on that. Maritime law. So it was a big, I just want to go back to that because it's such a big deal when we get into like the global geopolitics.
Look, if there's no COVID, Trump is still president.
Oh man,
and I dare say the country would be better for it
because of these.
And I'm
things.
not, I'm not a manga guy, all that type of thing. I just think that Trump was the right guy for the job at the right time, and it's regrettable that that COVID happened, and you can argue whether or not COVID was kind of a convenient tool to usurp that presidency. I'm not making that argument, but like I said, I think had it not been for COVID, Trump was still president.
I agree.
It just gave a reason to challenge and question. I mean, you had all of the bullshit, investigations, all the Russia stuff, and all that shit fell through. So basically that was all bullshit. But the COVID thing and the way it was spun in such a way in which they kind of blame him for the mishandling or mishandling of that was enough to turn the tide. Now, I have questions about the election returns too, but I'm not
No,
going
they
to
stole
that
it.
right.
They stole it. COVID provided the cover, and I don't think Donald Trump thought that the Dems would go that far. But if you think about Donna Brazile, think about the things that they've done. Donna Brazile stole questions and then gave questions. So they were willing. They had worked with the FBI to hide Hunter Biden's laptop. They knew what was on the laptop, right? So I don't think Donald Trump found out something that Barack Obama found out when he was president, that he wasn't in control or in charge, even though he was president, and that the Clintons still had a hold over the country. Like he didn't know that. Like, God damn, the Clintons still, they like a mafia family, right? So even though he was president, he wasn't in control and he wasn't in charge, right? And they were able to use their operatives to slip Biden in there. And that's what really happened. So the cover of COVID, I actually was working for elections when that happened. And the thing me and my wife laugh about was when she taught me was, Uru dropped off, they don't have to count all the ballots. So when COVID hit, a lot of these places got shut down and everybody got sent home. So they never counted all the ballots. So I always wondered how they came up with the amount when they never counted. And then my wife was like, and then Dr. Shiva talked about this, the guy that Young Pharaoh introduced us to. Dr. Shiva was like, he found out when he ran for office, and Black Uru might know this too, like they don't have to count all the votes. They only have to count a percentage of the votes. And you may have won, but the way the math works and the way politics works is that these appointed positions, that's how Bush won, because the person in Florida who called it was an appointee. And it was appointed by the Republican governor, so she went with the Republican. This is what's happening in a lot of the Democratic states. These were appointees who were running these election offices, and they went with the Democrat. The same thing that happened to Bush, and why he won, this is why Biden won. Because they had Democrats in the right places, in the right states, in the right positions, willing and believing that Trump was a racist and we had to get him out of here. So I'm going to do whatever it takes as an American, because I see it as American, to vote in the interest. Because these people, that's what people say, yo, vote, don't count. So they saw it in the best interest of America to vote for Biden. And they actually are voting at these precincts. They're actually voting. So you might think your individual vote counts, but this person who heads up the precinct, who's in charge of these million votes, that's what the electoral college is going to say whether or not this precinct goes Democrat or Republican. Like, oh, wait a minute. I thought, well, we can't do it like that because there's so many people. So I'm the boss of the Southeast. I got 2 million votes in the Southeast. I don't have enough time to count them. So mathematically, we came up with the equation, and they say, well, this is the fraction that you have to count the votes. And then from that, you can determine who's the victor. And then I'm going to add that to the Southwest, to the Northwest. And then that's going to be who the winner is. So you guys counted your 2 million, or you counted 2,000. Out of your 2 million votes, you counted 2,000. And you say Biden won. I believe you. Think about it. When we went to bed, Trump was winning. So you said Biden won. I believe you. So I go to the next precinct. You got 3 million votes. COVID hit. You can't count all your votes. Cool. You counted a percentage, right? You verified that percentage. How many you count? 3,000. Out of 3 million, 3,000. Who won? Biden. Okay, thank you. This is what's going on. I don't know if people know that that's what happened, but that's what happened. They don't have to count all the votes. And because of COVID, they shut down and stopped counting. Yeah, man. They shut down and stopped counting. They used temps to count the votes. The temps went home. It's not real employees, so you can't go back and investigate. They used temps to count the votes. Temps went home. COVID. Ballots were contaminated. How do we know if the person who signed the mail home ballot had COVID or not. We can't have people touching the ballots. Hello, people. We can't have people touching the ballots. Allegedly, this is what took place. This is my opinion. Allegedly. Shout out to the street doctor. Thank you for coming through. Young King. It's my brother. Make sure y'all subscribe to the street doctor. Somebody throw that link in the chat. Shout out to Black Uru Elder for coming through, joining the panel, sharing his wisdom, elaborating on the topics, just crystallizing a lot of the points. Shout out to Tracy and Ken, Deborah, roll call in the chat, all the 5.0 family. I see Dark Green out there. Who else came through today? Oh, Wizard Kelly came through today. Shout out to everybody came through support. Oh, I'm listening. That's my day one. Monique. Shout out to Monique. Thank you for coming through. Salute to you, Monique. I hope you subscribed. See you next Friday. Mrs. Perfect Timing. Happy Friday, Mrs. Perfect Timing. You got 15 minutes and you'll be off. Can't wait for you to get home. You are a great wife and mother. You're truly beautiful and a great choice and selection. I'm truly impressed and proud every day with you and everything you do. And I want to thank you and give you your props and just let you know how powerful, how special, how magical you are. Shout out to Mrs. Perfect Timing. So we shutting down. Thank y'all for hanging out. We didn't do no music. We did straight game. 3 hours and 41 minutes. Straight GAME. Straight wisdom. Straight facts. Straight to your headpiece, man. And I feel real good about this Friday live stream. I feel good about this Friday vehicle. Perfectly Said is the podcast. My name is Perfect. Perfect Timing Podcast is the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Perfect Timing Podcast Live is the backup channel. Perfect_timing_podcast on Instagram. Make sure you watch all of my shorts. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when I'm live. If I do a pop-up live stream, make sure you watch the playlist of all the shorts. Go back and watch some of the old videos if you like the content. Go on the journey of a pathos with me, man. Go check out the Perfect Man Show. Check out some of the playlists on some of the courtroom content that we did. You know what I'm saying? I guarantee you that you will be entertained. It's something for everybody. I got over 400 videos, 300,000 views. I'm working really hard at this and perfecting my talent, and I know there's something for you on my channel. If you like the short format, I got the short format. If you like the long format, I got the long format. If you got the courtroom format, I got like the reactions. I have it all, and all of it is to perfection because it's my watercolor created by me. So dig into it. I know you see that number up there. Say, oh man, over 400 videos. Yeah, over 400 videos, 300,000 views. I've been doing this, man, creating great content for you. So I know there's something that you can find to entertain yourself while you doing the dishes, while you vacuuming the floor, while you changing the oil. You know what I'm saying? Tap into the Perfect Timing Podcast 5.0, 5.0, 5.0 is phonetically sound. You say it with me every time I say it. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing but love, peace, and blessings from the top all the way down. Prayers go up, blessings go down. I pray a covering over all of those who listen, watch, and support. May you have success in your endeavors. Happy Friday. Happy weekend to you and your loved ones. My brother Ken for supporting me and the family. Hey, who is that right there? Is that the queen? Who is that right there? That's my baby right there. Man, you mean so much to me. So I just want to say shout out to everybody. Salute to the 5.0 family. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, subscribing, voting in the poll. Who won the poll? Let's check the poll before we get out of here. Who won the poll? Who won the poll? Responsible person. Responsible person. So 23% was Hero. Got a nice number of votes too. Thank you everybody for voting and participating. It means a lot to the YouTuber. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it, man. I'm a Leo. I need the reciprocation. So I really love you guys and thank you for voting, hitting the like button. I see 14 likes. I see the votes, and it means a lot to me, man. I'm a YouTuber in growth, and it just means a lot. 23% Hero, 46% said responsible person, 8% said I don't know perfect, and 23% none of the above. I'm just me. I thought that was a pretty good poll. There's no judgment in that poll. There's no judgment in that poll, right? This is a place for growth, right? There's no judgment in that poll. So thank you all for coming and listening and voting and participating. I'll see you next Friday. But every day I upload. Every day, multiple uploads. Every day, thousands of views. Today, baby, how many views we did today? Today alone, how many views I did today, y'all? 5.0. If you 5.0, how many views we got today? Y'all should be watching the growth. You should be excited as I am. We're you know what I'm saying? How many views just today, you guys? How many views today? Almost 3,000 views today. Y'all see that? Just every day we got thousands of views. I'm so proud of us. Tracy, Ken, I'm listening. Everybody who's been here from the beginning, I wanted to give up so many times. I've given up so many times. I'm no different than you. I have struggles. I have hardships. It's not easy financially, mentally, physically. That's why I'm standing right now. But I thank God. I thank you all for your support. 3,000 views today. Almost 3,000 views yesterday. Almost 300,000 views. I was looking around since YouTube sent me that notification that I reached 250,000 views. We blew past that. We had 300,000 views. So I started looking at content creators with a lot more subscribers than me, and they not at 300,000 views. So we got to get them subscriptions up because YouTube is making all the money from all the views. So we got to get those subscriptions up. So Mrs. Perfect Timing and Aria and Asar and little Bubba benefit from all the views and your support, because right now YouTube is getting all the benefit because the channel is not monetized. So we on our way to monetization. I want to say thank you all for your support, and I love y'all. And we just gonna keep it up. When you see the shorts, watch the shorts. Watch it more than once if you think it's funny. Comment on my shorts. Hit the thumbs up. Comments help. Share them with your friends if you think it's funny, influential, motivational. Share it with your family, with your kids. You can share the shorts. You know, the shorts are portable. The shorts is like, it's going to be PG. So salute to the whole 5.0 family, man. Salute to the whole 5.0 family. Look at Ken. That's my brother Ken. He always be in the chat up to no good. My sister Tracy in the building today. Perfectly Said podcast. Hero versus responsibility. And I threw in altruism. And the gems of today was responsibility, enterprise, and accountability. 2 more times. Responsibility, enterprise, and accountability. One last time before I close. Responsibility. Your rights are my responsibility. My rights are your responsibility. Enterprise, the heroic aspect of a hero, the enterprising aspect of a hero, and accountability, altruism, the innate responsibility that Black men feel for Black people. I love you guys. Have a good day. We can expound on this because this is a lot of topics. It's a long format. That's why we do it once a week. So it's a lot of time for you. As soon as I close down, I need everybody to go put a comment. I need everybody to go put a comment that helps the video, and I need everybody to share. Shout out to my brother Dark Green. Salute to the Bay Area. San Francisco, I came to this thing on a glass sandwich bag. Oakland, I got 100 cousins in Oakland, Richmond. I got 100 cousins in Richmond. My little brother went to El Cerrito High School. I remember picking up little Donald from his father lived in Richmond. Beautiful house in Richmond, right off the freeway. I think it was the Carson exit. And then my little nephews lived in the projects right there, right off that exit in the freeway right there. I would go pick them up and drop them off when we lived in Fairfield. Then mama moved to Richmond. But Lil Donna went to El Cerrito High. He played football for El Cerrito. So we Bay Area for sure. Salute, one love, man. Shout out to my brother Sir Ism, man. Make sure y'all tap into Sir Ism, man. Sir Ism out here doing his thing in these YouTube streets. Salute to Sir Ism and success, man. When I thought about Dark Green and I thought about this Bay Area shit, it just made me think about Sir Ism. We gotta support each other, man, because it's unique. These Bay Area perspectives are unique, man. It's just a unique type of 19 Keys is from Oakland. So we gotta celebrate and salute everybody from the Bay and get these perspectives out here because it's unique. This Bay water makes us unique, man. You know, I talked about Redwood City before and how Blacks founded Redwood City. And I was watching another YouTuber talk about the park and recs in California and how Black men, because of forestation, how and what the jobs they required us to do. What Black Uru was talking about, how a lot of Black men built this shit, the Panama Canal. But that's why the parks and recs, you know, the forests and the redwood trees were developed were ran by Black men because of the deforestation that they required us to do. And that's how you got Redwood City, which is like super affluent, white and rich right now, founded by Blacks. And it originally was a Black town. A lot of people don't know that about Redwood City. But when this other YouTuber were talking about the park and rec system in California and how Blacks were integral to that, and they ran that for a long time because of their talents. I'm like, oh, okay, he know what he's talking about, because that right there is how you get Redwood City. But that's a discussion for another day. I love where I'm from. Northern California is such a beautiful place, man. With the Pacific Ocean, it's a unique climate, so it creates a unique mentality. The oxygen that we breathe, you got the Rocky Mountains, you got the Pacific Ocean, so it's a different type of air, and it makes humans different. Like environment makes you different. Think about all the science movies. That's why our weed is different. The weed is different because the climate creates a different soil for the weed to grow differently. So humans are different because of the same thing. This only makes sense. If the plants here, how much different are humans from plants? Oh, I need a Black Adam. Me and Mrs. Perfect Time, and I meant to bring that up to her because the brothers was talking about Black Adam. I haven't taken her to the movies in a while. I'm gonna take my wife to the movies this weekend, and we should, as a family, we should go see Black Adam. Hopefully the kids like it. I know it's a superhero. I know my son liked The Rock, and my wife loved going to the movies. She don't even really like the movies, but she just loved everything. She's just a big kid, and she just loved. That's why I love her so much, because she is. I'm her hero. So she just loves when I take her out and buy her popcorn and buy her soda and kiss her and hold her. Like, I very rarely see her like watch the movie, but it's her favorite thing to do. You know, women are a trip, bro. Women are a trip. So that's a great idea, Ken. Thank you. Take the family to the movies this weekend. Go see Black Adam. When she gets home, or when she gonna call me in about 2 seconds, I'm gonna have her look and for a matinee. Go check out Black Adam. And definitely get me a Black Adam Funko Pop. I got a new Funko Pop too. So it's Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett on the throne with his number one baby girl from the series. So if you didn't know, I love Boba Fett. That's my favorite Star Wars character from when I was a child. That would be the figurine I would keep all the time. Boba Fett. I think it was a jetpack, but I love Boba Fett, and this is him on the throne from the Mandalorian. Oh no, from his Boba Fett had his own series after the Mandalorian, so this is from that. This is my latest edition, and I got a Mandalorian on the wall. Where is it? You can't really see it, but I got a Mandalorian over there with Gotham, a new piece of art. So shout out to Ken. That's a great idea, baby. Need a Black Adam Funko Pop. Black Pops matter. Salute to you guys. Have a good day. I might edit this down for replay, but I love you guys. I'm about 5.0.